everybody here today. Star League. We're getting things in the way here with the first week of playoffs. Obviously, you know the drill when it comes around to Call of Duty. There's gunning, there's running, and there's a whole lot of men here reaching for the top. So as we get things going along, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself with this week's iteration. I'm going to be your caster, Mick. Joining me alongside me, the likes of Stan. How you doing, my boy?
Doing good. How are you doing this fine week, Mick?
I'm feeling outstanding, man. Got to say, COD kind of caught me a little bit out of left field, but hey, we're here for it. I had a lot of experience back in the day, a little bit of Modern Warfare 2 Challengers experience as well, so I'm excited to go ahead and once again revisit the Collegiate League when it really dwindles down to it, knowing that NACE is one of the leading providers of the league here when it comes to Call of Duty, consider what's happened here recently. But all things considered, though, and getting things underway, we can go ahead and talk about the schedule that we're dealing with today, because obviously we got some bangers coming out for you. We got Purdue Northwest, and we had the likes of TAMU International, and then we got Akron versus Shenandoah later. So respectively, we got all your top seeds to work with. We got your big ballers when it comes around to these guys and what they're gunning with, and it's gonna be a pretty darn good day, I'd say, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the matches. I'm excited to see Shenandoah play as well. I know a few of the guys on their roster playing COD myself, so it's gonna be fun to watch that match.
I sure hope so. And even though Akron, their kind of whole league and their entire history when it comes to Call of Duty, they've always been a top shooter. TAMU International, I want to say they're a little bit of a newcomer, at least here from seeing what I've seen of the leagues. But even then, for them to be making progression is always nice to see the collegiate scene developing. And Purdue, I mean, we know them. They've always, I mean, even then back when I was competing in 2019 in Modern Warfare or the remaster, they were just a big top contender as it stood overall. So I'm excited to see what they have to go underway today. But I mean, nothing really too new. Obviously, Modern Warfare 3 right around the corner. We're excited for that. But even better yet, let's talk about these rosters that we have to work with here tonight, because those are the important players we're going to deal with. That's going to be Purdue University Northwest dealing with the likes of Echo, Kaiser, H2O, and Arrows, and then Texas A&M International. We're dealing with ISO, Sanusta, Lotus, and Melski. So obviously, got to have gunners. Those are the men right behind them. They're the ones on the sticks, and they'll be the ones really going out here for today to go ahead and start us off. So, you know, kind of breaking this thing down a little bit, looking at the season, looking what's going away, obviously, starting things off in the playoffs. Didn't get too much of an actual read when it came right to the season, but I think we should have something kind of lined up for us, because I can lay things out for you a little bit. Purdue Northwest, they went ahead for their entirety of the season, and up with a pretty solid record at the end of the day, considering, I mean, you know what you got to work with. They found themselves at 4-3. You have Purdue Northwest sitting at 6-1. And then we'll go ahead and talk about the other guys later. But even then, I mean, knowing that positive record, the thing that kind of scratches me a little bit off is going to be Texas A&M sitting in at 4-3. But I mean, hey, not the biggest deal in the world, because we're already getting things underway into lobby. We're going to the likes of Hotel here for Hardpoint, and we're going to start things off here with a banger. As I said mentioned, though, already, you need to get yourself a pretty strong start. You need to make sure to open things up with a banger, and I think, quite frankly, Purdue, while they're being expected to kind of lead this thing to get going, Texas A&M, they have a chance to make a run of a lifetime if they just get themselves a good head start.
Hotel map.
And I think, honestly, I mean, when it comes to the hotel, especially on this P1, seeing how open it is, you can already see the frags are going underway. You see the setups around the map, going up the catwalk, the upper frags going ahead and taking place, and everything you already see a pretty strong start here from the likes of Purdue, finding themselves not really too much kill time, but they want to set this thing up to make sure it looks good for them overall. So still a couple more frags being exchanged here. We see Lotus going ahead, finding a 2K, resulting in cutting down half the entire team, and you're going to see that start to continue a little bit more so. But with a quick little strike back from H2O, once again, we see Purdue find themselves a pretty good just establishment here. A lot of game time here on the board, 20 seconds already on the board. You got 14 seconds. You're looking at this P2 rotation to see when you can get that underway, because keep in mind, you don't find nearly as much time here on P1, considering you got to deal with those initial spawns and those initial kickoff runs we see.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a beautiful hold out of Texas A&M, though, to keep those P2 spawns for Hill. It's really hard sometimes in the hotel to like try to get a little bit of time and be able to hold on to P2. So beautiful effort out of them.
We can already see a little bit of the setup here from P2 as well. Already from the likes of Purdue going ahead, holding on those kind of angles towards his arches, looking to go ahead and find those crosses where necessary. And everything you are seeing these players go ahead and result in find themselves kills in the meantime as well. But Texas A&M with a pretty solid break, I'd say, all things considered. Already going ahead, looking to get themselves a couple of players, even then with Melski here on the flank, looking to get a couple kills in the meantime. Has to be that clutch player, has to be the defining factor, and we just couldn't find it there just yet. So with Purdue going ahead, continuing along once more, they are keeping things running, lighting up the kill feed one by one. You already find 3 players down, a little bit of a retaliation here on the field. But P3 is now starting to be eyed a little bit, considering that it's 20 seconds on the clock. It's scrap time here, and Purdue's found themselves a pretty large lead thus far. So that's an entire hard point that you have to compensate for later if you're Texas A&M.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the side of Purdue, they also pick up the scrap time. H2O with the turn and burn on Melski. beautiful scrap time and rotation out of Purdue there. They're getting the time and they have the full setup for Kitchen as well. And Kitchen is a very hard hill to break. It's one of those money hills, honestly. If you get full control of it and you're winning your gunfights, it's not easy to break through there.
There's so much cover inside there. It's so close quarters, and this is where these SMGs really start to excel in taking that hard point time. But already we're seeing ISO going ahead, find a little bit of terror of their own, looking to go ahead and break these outer kind of walls, looking to break that barrier of entry, looking for some wall penetration, and doesn't get the kill, but better yet gets information, saying there's a player right there towards the stove. Go ahead and knock those players down. Sanus is going ahead and backing up that information, executing the entire take and looking for some more kills. But I mean, obviously, Purdue's not going to give anything up for free. You see that time being accumulated. You see a good break by Texas A&M, and you see kills starting to go ahead and accumulate here for both sides and look to see where they can really contest so far. But even then, they're holding the outside. H2O looking to not even really break the shit to make sure these rotations and these spawns are getting denied. We are only good for so much. We're seeing Purdue going ahead, just kind of giving that thing up because they're saying, hey, best case scenario for us, or worst case, better yet, Arrows goes on a tear, and even then, we still set a relatively even game, knowing that it's just still that one exact hard point that Texas A&M really needs to secure the entirety of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, huge rotation out of Purdue once again. They're on point with the rotations this game. If you want to win the game, honestly, MW2 more than any other COD, it's so crucial in the rotations. If you're not winning your rotations, it's harder in this game, I feel like, to trying to fight through losing rotations than it is in previous CODs as well.
So even then, still already, once again, I mean, just kind of seeing the history kind of unfold here. It's repeating itself, quite frankly. Purdue, once again, already being on the start there. A great hold. Every single player tearing through the likes of Texas A&M thus far. So, I mean, even then, you see an insane hold coming out for them. And you only get one more chance to really break this hill. And quite frankly, even by the time you get around to it, you're still only dealing with scrap time at the end of the day. So we see Texas A&M kind of going ahead, folding their cards, understanding that that's not their place there in the map. And they're going to make that rotation right back around to get ready for that next hill, which you can see is locked. But even then, more so, they want to make sure they have that setup. But already, Purdue, once again, already ready for the gun, already setting up there and winning a respective gunfight, but it's not enough because we once again see Lotus finding that kill, winning that 1v1, and getting the setup for the rest of the squad. So, I mean, I gotta say, Texas A&M, they've had outstanding initial holds and especially break some of these sites and getting ahead of the game, but quite frankly, that's just more because they were behind a little bit. They need to find an establishment. They gotta find a hold, and that's the biggest thing that Purdue is breaking down once more as you see Echo and H2 able to go ahead and cut down half the squad.
Absolutely. Beautiful hold, though, out of Lotus. I mean, he's fighting for his life on the hill, and he's getting some solid time for his boys. This is a very good hill out of Texas A&M here to get back in this game.
Well, Sanu's already coming out with a double kill. H2O going to retaliate with the exact same manner. You see, once again, these numbers are staying pretty darn equal across the board, but even then, while this is all accumulating, you see the time being dwindled over. Contested points going ahead and going it away, and even then Purdue once again finally going ahead, finding a triple frag and making sure to lock this thing down. So Donnie Hall, that's going to be behind us. There's 9 seconds on the clock. You're looking right back to rotate around, find yourself the initial start once again, and even then it comes down to who's really there first, and who else better than Purdue. We've seen Texas A&M find these initial grabs, get themselves onto site, and even then better yet kills to go ahead and surmount that across the map. But even then, once again, we're seeing these exchanges of Echo and D arrows, able to lock that thing down pretty darn early, where it just feels like you can't break, especially with all these trophy systems, man. There's nothing you can really put onto this side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like every single time that Texas A&M gets a few kills, gets a break, Echo or Arrows are just there getting a crazy two-piece and just absolutely stopping every push they make. It's a beautiful break, though, out of Texas A&M there. But there again, Echo with another two-piece, just absolutely stopping every push they seem to get going.
It's every single time, dude. I mean, already we're seeing these points go up and up and up here for Purdue, already sitting at 197 to 83. I mean, this is Texas A&M. They are hemorrhaging right now. But even then, ISO able to go ahead and find a swift 2 kills here to go ahead and establish something on the field. But you need a little bit more. You found these nades, you're holding things up, but you can't find the break because Kaiser's there to shut it down. So these are these things. You find these double setups, these 2 players on site, and sure, it takes so much to just get rid of the players rotating around the map and just kind of running with their heads cut off. But it always feels like the one that's calm, steady, and ready for these next gunfights to go underway. They always seem to win it. But Purdue found a little bit of a switch up. ISO's able to win that one, Melski as well. So you see that kind of double down. You see the site hold going underway. And it feels like if they just keep this kind of hold every single time, they could actually find something. So this may be the time as they start to hit that 100-point threshold.
Absolutely, but I mean, every time you think it's gonna happen, Echo again with another two-piece, and just it seems like the gun power of Purdue is just completely outgunning Texas A&M in this game so far. I don't know if it's just a slow start for them or not, but Hotel can be a lot of that at times. Like once you get on a streak, once you start going, it is hard to get back into the swing of things on Hotel. But on the side of Texas A&M, there's still, you know, that exact chance for them as well. Like they could get a comeback going and start to chain these hills together and bring this game back.
They're going to wake up here soon, consider them even after the rear end of this half, and even then better yet, this point exactly. You need to go ahead and consider the kind of points that you're dealing with in the meantime. Already so much of a deficit going on there. You got 9 seconds on the clock for Purdue to just go ahead and close up this first map. As you mentioned, momentum, it needs to kind of find a stall here. Texas A&M, they want to go ahead and at least break 100, find that kind of threshold, make sure it looks at least relevant for them. But problem is, it's such a solid hold, it feels like there's nothing really left. So, I mean, already done and dusted. First map out of the way, Purdue winning 250 to 92. An outstanding scoreline to go ahead and get things started out. We'll talk about Texas A&M and what they need to do to get things started, but I just, quite frankly, it may be a hard point thing. We're not really quite sure because in the best of 3, you only have 1 shot at every single mode, and you've got to lock these things down. It felt like a little bit of lackluster effort there, but still, there's a lot more time, but a lot of kills on the side of Purdue to just go ahead and show what they are made of. 24 and 15, 23 and 11. You had 2 players going double positive. I mean, it's just outstanding to see what these Purdue players accomplished there, and it didn't even really feel like a setup at the side of that point. Seeing that if they ever had to break, they had the resources, they had the gunning ability there, just go ahead and completely dismantle anything that Texas A&M set up, and it's not a fault of anybody, keep in mind. I mean, it just comes down to a team effort, and you saw these players holding those things down, but it just feels like there's a little bit too much emphasis on these spawns, already looking at the rotations, looking at that kind of outskirts of the map. Problem is, Purdue's hitting that site 10 times out of 10 because they're winning it successfully every single time. And better yet, they don't even have to allocate every single player to a break because they know one guy's always going to be good for at least 2, or better yet, from that stance, we saw 2 players just going to be good for 2 every single time.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful work out of Purdue. I think Texas A&M has a chance though to bounce back in the search and destroy. They can slow things down, take a deep breath, and if they can just slow things down and play at their pace, it seemed like when they were playing at their pace, they were doing well. It just Purdue had them on the back foot the entire game. There was just nothing they could do to get caught back up.
It was that little slowdown there, and obviously we can kind of talk about it a little bit more once search and destroy rolls around, but I mean, even then, just kind of laying a foundation here, it's a much slower time to game mode, keep in mind. I mean, you got only 1 life, you can't throw anything out the window. It's not like control or even lives really worth all that much, because hardpoint, you're just kind of throwing everything, even then your dead bodies onto the site, just to kind of say, look, my presence is there, I at least tried. But search and destroy, I mean, we talk about Purdue and their setups, their initial setups. Quite frankly, that's going to be pretty strong, I would say. I can kind of bargain on their defense a little bit here, considering that I think it's going to be their strong suit when it comes around to the second mode, knowing that even then, they're going to have those default setups. They're going to have a little bit more strats behind it, I'd say. They're going to have some solid setups, I would hope, to kind of see unravel a little bit. And even more so, I'd like to see them kind of make sure to win these ones, because we saw these kind of sparks of fire coming our way for a couple of those players. But it just didn't find the reality because it had to keep on going and going and going. It had to find that momentum, as you mentioned. And quite frankly, that was where it stalled. It just felt more like a lighter that just can't really light up completely. Just a lot of sparks where it looks good for a second, but it never really holds on to its lid.
Yeah, that's a lot how Hotel Hardpoint is too. Like I said, once you get that fire going, it's really hard to put it out. And you know, there's teams that can do it, teams that can lock in and get that reverse sweep, I guess, in the map. But it's rough once you get super far on the back foot, especially 70 points down. It's just not a very winnable map. So looking forward to the search though, because I don't know, I just have a feeling. I have a feeling that Purdue's gonna get them or not Purdue, but Texas A&M's gonna get a little fight back in them.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, we got to go ahead and at least see things on the other side of this break, but keep in mind, regardless, you got to keep in mind who's bringing this all action to you in the first place. I mean, like the CDW Alienware going ahead providing all your needs in terms of computers, considering that you know the Alienware name, you know what they got to bring to the table, and you know that we're going to have more action bringing to you after this. So we'll catch you then.
I'm Ryan Pruitt. I'm a sophomore at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. I'm a full-time college student, a future nurse, a small business owner, and a cadet in the U.S. Army ROTC. I'm the son of an Army officer, so I know the opportunities the Army provides. I knew the ROTC scholarship was the right choice for me to pay for the college that I wanted to go to. More than the money, I have people who are encouraging and committed to my success. I have big goals, and the Army is helping me make them a reality. I'm future Second Lieutenant Ryan Pruitt. That's my ROTC story. What will yours be?
Well, if you're just as excited as any of the rest of us, considering, I mean, these players especially, you can see they're already getting away here for game 2. No time for a pretty faces. That may be a drawback for some of you, and better yet, a benefit for others. But all things considered, going ahead, looking at the likes of Search and Destroy Fortress, we already got ahead a little bit of hints leading up to this, but even then, keep in mind, we actually get to see the execution now, which we get to talk about a little bit more so. So to start things off, we're going to have Texas A&M start a little bit slow, even then, kind of sitting around, obviously, towards that side of the map where they're even then maybe a lobby reset, considering that we do have some shots coming through. So maybe we do get to come back to our faces. Who knows? Good old MW2 matchmaking. But consider once again, we saw the start off. We got a little bit inkling and idea there, even then if it just came down to the size that we're starting off with. As we mentioned earlier, Purdue has to go ahead and just kind of execute. I mean, they have no problems with that whatsoever. But Texas A&M, like we said, they're the ones who are finding some pretty good initial kills when it came around to hardpoint. You can't really drag them too much for that because of how chaotic that entire map set is, and better yet, even than just that mode in general. Lead into a thing like this, though. Now, slow the game down, calm and concise, figure out, assess the problems, and really just win your ones, which I think they can do. It just really comes down to timing and getting the information with your with all your equipment first off.
Yeah, absolutely. And seeing that Texas A&M starting on attack, I'm interested to see how they're gonna start off this map. I honestly, low-key, I'm excited and hope that they throw a little wild card and go B right off the rip first round. That's something you do not see on Fortress, like hardly ever, especially first round. That would be fun to see, but it just all comes down to their setup on how they approach the attack. I'm interested to see if they're going to start super aggressive or, play it slow and try to get some picks. But it seems like Texas A&M against Purdue currently, just after that one hardpoint match we've watched, I don't know if the aggression is really the play against Purdue. It seems like Purdue kind of is thriving off of that aggression right now, going after that first map.
And even kind of like that group mob mentality kind of scenario, because you do like to go for those kind of full breaks onto these sites every now and again. But even then, I mean, keep in mind, every team has to default. They want to figure out where these lineups are looking, where snipers could be, where you're kind of placing your SMGs and your ARs. And sure, I mean, as a team, they have their own allocation that they have in mind. They're saying, okay, we put our guys here. They're probably going to do the same thing. Game's been around for a year. You've already seen the tried and true. You know what works and what doesn't, what has these insane angles. I just feel like they just can't be counteracted. So you have to tend to usually throw equipment in those areas of the map, but even more so, as you mentioned, when it comes around to that B side, I mean, the fact that they choose these maps still, knowing that, I mean, already, no matter what map it may be, I mean, it's still going to be around for ages, and they're going to have an idea of what's going on there, but it really comes down to, as you mentioned, that A site being the main hit for the entirety of Fortress. Fortress feels like one of those maps to where even then, no matter what you're playing, Control, we're not even going to talk about that one, but especially for Search and Destroy and Hardpoint, I mean, there's a heat map, and there feels like an entire half of the map is red, and the entire half of the map is just ice blue, where you have these just kind of, okay, that's the flanker route. We'll leave that to them. We're not going to really touch that side of the map. We're just going to say right over here towards Guillotine, right here towards Cannon, right towards that center, those courtyards. There's a long range of sites. And, I mean, I don't know how it's going to work out for A&M, because it felt like their SMGs were the strongest holders when it came around to it. When it came down to the aggression, look for these early holds, find those initial picks. Their ARs are really going to have to step it up in a scenario like this, considering that, I mean, range is going to be the name of the game here to find those initial picks, keep those numbers advantages, and really trade off that towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Their ARs are definitely going to have to step up compared to that last game. I mean, Fortress is a map that's dominated by the ARs. I mean, the subs can get inside of the Fortress building and, do a little bit of finesse, but for the most part, I mean, there's a lot of long angles and a lot of long gunfights you just have to take, especially pushing that A site. You're on the back steps, peeking usually someone who's deep open or holding the guillotine heady, and it's not an easy or free gunfight the slightest. So
I mean, talking about the Fortress, I mean, it's just like, as you said, it can excel, but it doesn't really find any use on the sites for the most part. A is where, quite frankly, a lot of teams like to take it because of the added benefit of having an SMG inside that fortress, able to cover that door, see if there's a cross from that inner door that's closer to the fortress, saying, I at least have some level of coverage here. And even then, if they come towards the outer side of the map on the outer gate, that's also really doable. But, I mean, quite frankly, you don't find too much real effect besides that. If you ever go to B, if Purdue does have the kind of the advantage when it comes around to the ARs, you could see them possibly going for that initial hit just because they're going to know that somebody's going to be in that top side towards that spawn area. And even then, just kind of looking to hold things down, find initial pick, and you say they're not going to rush us. They're probably going to be set up towards that cannon area, towards those hay bales, and just kind of play a little more aggressive and just to find a little bit of a switch of pace. And I think, quite frankly, on the backside of that we're going to have to see A&M find either that aggression to really come into fruition, or better yet, just really run through this thing and have some of the most, I'd say, disciplined holds we've ever seen. But we have to see the aggression towards how much they really want to put emphasis on it and find these digital picks. So you can already see it starting to go underway. A fight, so much lethals, so many tacticals just being thrown out just to get the information to stall players out. And you see Purdue dropping a player in the meantime. So this is a perfect setup here for Texas A&M if you could talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just beautiful. I mean, executing on a site that fast and that clean. They got the pick. They backed off Purdue, and now they have full site control. So the pressure's on Purdue here, and I'm excited to see what Purdue does, being that we've not seen them on their back foot as much as we've seen Texas A&M. And just like that, 1v4 for Kaiser. He's gonna get 2. Oh my goodness.
That's wrenching things. Already getting things in the way. Even the dead silence already being popped. I mean, you just got to check every single angle. You know, nobody's over there towards guillotine. You know that somebody's probably going to be back towards Fonty. You've already got the read in Sanusta. But problem is, you're in a pinch maneuver, and you just can't close things out. So a pretty valiant attempt for Purdue to kind of overtake things, get back into this. But quite frankly, knowing that even in Texas A&M finding themselves to start like this, getting that first round is going to be so critical that you can't be nothing but give yourself a breath of relief, quite frankly. Saying, look, we did that. And on the attacking side, our defense and look at how they played, that's what we were starting to bargain on. So they could find themselves a 2-0 start, find a third of that scoreline, and say, look, this is the entry we needed. And especially it came down to that lethal, keep in mind. So obviously Purdue's going to be a little bit more lenient of that. But going forward, you got to see how this really plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just like we were talking about before, Purdue's played a lot on aggression, but that round they backed up immediately off that A side, and you know, it cost them the round in the end. It's gonna be interesting to see if Purdue puts their foot back on the gas, or if, you know, that round shook them up a little bit.
Nice, already good for 1. You can see the initial numbers once again going over to the likes of Texas A&M. Huge start for them, even then it looks like they're having a little bit of a better idea of how Fortress works than it does in Hotel. But considering that you see now once again the lives going in their direction, ISO just go ahead, creeping around, letting that SMG reign. 2 already on his name for this round so far. You're looking for another one. It's the last one, quite frankly, but it doesn't matter who gets it, so long as you find it and you make sure to close things out. So second round here for the likes of Texas A&M. We talked about their pacing, we talked about their hard point so far, and it looks like they got it under control here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've immediately stepped up compared to that hardpoint map. It seems like they got that firm footing, got that first round, and they're now ones now putting the foot on the gas. And it seems like Purdue's getting a little shaky so far in these first 2 rounds. They're playing a little timid, it seems like, and Purdue's gonna have to settle in and take a deep breath if they want to start clawing their way back into this.
It's good for Texas A&M. They found themselves that kind of nice frag there off the get-go with those nades in the last round, but even then in a round like the second one, it's still a little bit of an idea. It's a little bit of a litmus test to figure out where these players are sitting and what's going on there. But even then, ISO got the better of them, but better yet, ISO's the first one to be shut down in this round. So that's going to be a really big tell of really what's going on there. Look at Simtex being thrown to the back, kind of funnel players somewhere else, but you know the A control once again. You can just see that line of scrimmage set up on that bomb. You're not going to be able to plant that thing for free. Do you have any flankers going around? No. This is just a pure game of patience. And quite frankly, Texas A&M is the one on the back of it because they're the ones who need to put that bomb down. They got 50 seconds to do it. They got all the time in the world. They can still set up a flank, but keep in mind with how everything goes, you could even hear a just drop. You could hear a needle drop and hit the ground, quite frankly, right now. So you can't really stomp around the map. You can't really give yourself too much. But still, just the idea of having that extra player there to kind of allocate them towards the flank, figure out what's going on. You can still see that Purdue are able to hold every single angle to a certain degree and just shut down anybody who peeks. So there goes another one just going ahead, biting the dust. And even then, off the back of that, you're looking for a push onto the bomb, but you're not finding the right angles. You're finding players pushing you up, finding the kills, and just wiping things over. So Purdue finally get themselves on the board in what I'd say a pretty confident manner, and knowing that they can even find that, and even off the back of that first blood, you see how they play this game. It's going to be critical for A&M to really just kind of go ahead and find those consistently, and I just don't know how they're going to do it now if Purdue starts to read them a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a beautiful round out of Purdue. They got that first blood, and then they just kind of trapped them in the map. There's nowhere that A&M could go. I feel like A&M just kind of sat too long, expecting Purdue to make a mistake. After that first map, I feel like if you're on the side of A&M, you can't sit around and wait for Purdue to make the mistake. You have to,
Yeah.
especially if you're a man down, you have to get a little bit aggressive. And I feel like A&M just kind of sat back a little bit too much. Just like that, two down for A&M. This round's already starting to look like it's getting a little out of hand.
Yes, a little aggression, and even then it's Purdue who's just providing it right off the get-go. Understanding that, okay, if we rush A, we're going to have nades just absolutely funneled towards us. Let's just go on the outer skirts of the map. Let's just go ahead, find these initial picks, and ever since then, you know A&M's just going to start to break down. So Purdue, as I mentioned, those first 2 rounds, a little bit of a leniency, I'd say, for Texas A&M, a benefit to them, but considering that even then you have to execute off that, and quite frankly, the same thing isn't going to happen twice. You got to look for some adjustments. You got to look for a different way to approach things, and Purdue did exactly that. Able to just completely wrap the entire team. You see it just blindsiding them back towards their own spawn where they just really can't react.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it looks like Purdue's taking a little bit of notes from the hardpoint map. I mean, it seemed like Texas A&M had what they wanted to do and how they wanted to approach a lot of those hard points. And Purdue's kind of realized that, hey, they're playing the exact same most rounds, trying to play the same setup. So, I mean, they're adjusting really well.
A little bit of a blind eye over there towards the truck, so you saw an initial first blood going their way there, and even then a backup, an easy one, better yet, because you're looking for the reaction off the play, and better yet, Texas A&M are the one to execute off of that. So knowing that you already don't really have the numbers there, any player that's looking to push around the map, quite frankly, it makes it 10 trillion times more difficult, and you saw it there. So arrows, if we're talking about numbers, and we're talking about how difficult it becomes, well, quite frankly, you know the A side is going to be the planet, regardless. But who's going to peak? Who's going to get overzealous? Well, that's going to be the likes of ISO to start things off. That player we talked about looking for those first bloods, also looking just as much for the last ones off the top of it. But even in a 1v4 scenario, one's cut down, looks to push double gates, possibly keeps an eye towards the area of the map. But even then, you were stomping along, you're sprinting, you're checking every single angle. But it's going to be the likes of Maluski just sitting right next to you, ready for that angle and finds the kill as well. So a huge round once again for Texas A&M. Did not really get themselves drowned out too much. They find themselves a third, saying, look, we hit that halfway point. We can still retaliate. We can still find answers to problems, and we can actually execute those solutions. So good by them to find themselves one more, but as they switch things up, go over to the defense, once again, you're going to see Purdue's aggression come into flow.
Yeah, hopefully Texas A&M slows it down here and, you know, combats that aggressiveness as well. But I mean, great round out of Purdue, or not Purdue, Texas A&M to making these adjustments. And, you know, they got kind of just snuffed out the last 2 rounds by Purdue and made the great adjustments to be able to take down Purdue kind of swiftly in that round.
Being popped, an absolute swab going through that door for Melski. 2K already going ahead, getting things started off here, but even then once again comes out of Purdue, finding themselves another kill off the back of it, and Texas A&M. When they started off with a good number set, they end up being at a deficit there towards the end, but sitting in a 1v1 now, it comes down to Lotus and Echo just playing around the day side. You see the plant going off here. This could be the prime timing for Echo. You got to check both angles once you go ahead and back up, because you do not want to be held hostage on top of this guillotine. Otherwise, you are dead meat, but already sitting, looking for a stance, looking for somewhat of an answer. You are just weaving and bobbing with the shots to be put off. So you know Lotus is towards that outer gate. You're looking for the shots. You even then know you need to kind of rotate out, but you just couldn't find the timing for it. So once again, good on Lotus. We see these 1v1s starting to pan out here for Texas A&M, and especially on a defensive round we saw was very lackluster, nearly flawless, I'd say, to a perfect T in that last time. They bounced back and make it at least a 1v1 to win for this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, beautiful play out of Lotus to cut that down to 1v1, and then, you know, they played it patient. They waited for Echo to get a little frantic and bought the blood off of it. And that's unfortunate for Purdue, that timing through the door. Texas A&M ran through the door right as he ran out of the door, and Kaiser just unfortunately got the worst timing possible in that opening break.
Oh, big sense there to go ahead and get things underway once again. I mean, sitting at 4-2 now, you see the stance. It could have been enough rounds to just go ahead and clean this thing out. But even then, we're still rolling. We're still going. And even then, we have at least guaranteed one more round on our hands. So we know that we can get ourselves something here to work with. We know we can get some more adjustments to play off of. And even then, with the trophies that coming out early, you're looking to mitigate those frags. But it just doesn't happen too much. Texas A&M going ahead and capitalizing off the back of that. 2 initial frags to their side. And even then, finding a third kill there out of Sanusta. It's a good look and already putting arrows on the back foot saying, oh my goodness, where did my team go? We couldn't even push out a spawn. How are we going to really retaliate for this? This was the same guy, keep in mind, that had to be in that clutch scenario last time. Found at least one right towards that exact window, but just couldn't finish it this time.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful teamwork out of Texas A&M. They're winning the gunfights that they couldn't win in the first map, and it looks like, you know, beautiful bounce back for map 2. And unfortunately for the side of Purdue, it's just not easy being left in a 1v4 most of these rounds, especially with bomb getting planted every single 1v4 that they've been left in as well.
So, I mean, big sense here. Match point pressure on for Purdue, knowing that even then, I mean, they had to get themselves something. But already, I think this could be the time to do it. And this time, quite frankly, you have to do it. Now sitting in a match point scenario for Texas A&M. So, it can be big for them. And knowing even then just getting a map on the board is going to be great for Texas. But even then, knowing control, we're going right back to that kind of nitty and gritty. Just how many fries can you get off kind of scenario for control. You got to find something here. And ISO, once again, does exactly that. Picking off Kaiser, you got to see who else can be available on the ramp. And we've seen Echo look ahead and find these kind of big strings of kills over and over and over again. So that's the player quite frankly you need to look out for, because Arrows, you know that more times than not, we see the trends. Usually alive last. Kind of a little bit of a passive player with the AR, looking for the lineups, looking at these players overextend, but it always feels like the right angles are not being checked. So even then, you got to kind of look around what's creeping up. H2O opening things up. Sanusi with an easy exchange there. Big numbers come up for Texas A&M where you can just close up shop and find yourself one more. So they get themselves on the board with the search and destroy as we got control coming up next. Oh, no. I mean, it's these scenarios, once again, where, I mean, you look at Texas A&M, you're hoping they can kind of wake up a little bit, and quite frankly, that's exactly what they did. You're really happy to see that they're now inside this thing, and even then you can look at the scoreboard to tell. Sanusta going on a tear. ISO, once again, pitching in, even as I mentioned, when it comes around to those first bloods, has 4 of them. So, I mean, we talked about the guy. We put a highlight on his name, and quite frankly, he was here for it. Playing a duelist role to a certain degree. I mean, just really getting in there, being ahead of the charge, and looking to go ahead and set the pace for the rest of those rounds. So, I mean, good on him for doing that. Once again, even then, I mean, seeing kind of how the game plays out and even how it slows down, we do see that Texas A&M has potential here, but it's during those slower game modes. I mean, they established themselves. They won it pretty darn well. So, I mean, once again, that's just kind of a little bit of what's here. A little bit of the pool. That's your map 2. That's your map 5. But that's never really what it locks down to. Because we talk about how Search wins championships. But quite frankly, does it win rounds? Does it win playoffs? Does it win these kind of scenarios where you're in this bracket? Because, I mean, you got to be excelling at everything. And when it comes around to the kind of nitty and gritty and really just contested things that are control and hardpoint, the majority of your modes, that's another question. That's something they got to wake up for here on this next one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it was a really good bounce back out of Texas A&M. And on the likes of Purdue, though, you know, we talked a lot about Echo and Eros throughout that entire map 1. And unfortunately, they had 4 combined. I mean, whenever, you know, you have a map 1 as dominant as that and your top slayers are also the ones struggling in the next map, you're kind of playing on that back foot. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get that bounce back, because I know Molesky, he had 9, I believe, in the first hard point, and he bounced back with, was it 6 in that last search? So, I mean, great bounce back out of him. And on the side of Purdue, they're looking for the exact same thing. They're looking for their, what seemed to be their star players in the first map to bounce back for this map 3.
I think, honestly, I mean, considering it's Expo, it's the newer map, quote unquote, here out of NW2 to kind of be introduced to the pool. You're going into control for this one. This could be one of those maps where you're saying, okay, look, it's a little bit kind of more fresh in our minds, because, I mean, keep in mind, every single team gets tired of those older maps, but they know they have to go through the kind of funds and fortunes. They just say, okay, we got to go ahead and close these things out. But knowing that Expo is a little bit kind of a breath of fresh air, I'd say, for these guys. It could be one of those opportunities to kind of really find themselves something. No one control. It's a much larger map, and we talked about Fortress where those ARs start to excel as well. Expo is kind of to a certain degree the same exact thing if you find yourself enough establishment. Knowing that even then you find that line of scrimmage, you kind of have yourself those longer ranges and those kind of big open courtyards to deal with. This could be a map where, once again, we see Texas A&M had that same exact stance. But it was their SMGs that were really excelling here in the second map to find themselves the first bloods and really engage those fights. So it's a little bit questionable of how they're going to hold it in the next one, but we'll have to find out after this break. But before we do go, I want to go ahead and let you know about, obviously, the ROTC program, getting things underway. You know what they can do. You know what they've done. And even then, you've more than likely heard of them. So why not just go ahead and give them a reach out? Because college opens minds, and the ROTC opens a world of opportunity. As an Army ROTC cadet, you'll learn to be a guide, a mentor, and a decision maker. So speaking of making decisions, we got to see whether or not Purdue wants to go ahead and kind of top things off after this break once more. Once again, welcome back, everybody. Getting things underway here with the likes of Control and, well, Expo. A little bit of a fresh map, a little bit of a brisk map. Kind of matches up with the new season coming underway, but even then, more better yet, kind of the new blood that's going to come underway. A new light that came out from Texas A&M in that last map when it came around to Search and Destroy. But as we get into Control, we once again get right back into the flow of chaos, where it just comes down to killing players and capping points. So already underway, we see players going ahead pushing out. Shanusa going ahead, getting things started off pretty well to find themselves a first blood, but it could be an immediate exchange coming out here. We're going to see blood on blood on blood. So I mean, even you're going to see that kill start to fill up, just like the likes of that B site from the likes of Texas A&M, getting themselves a pretty strong hold, I'd say, knowing they're just kind of holding on to those seats and found them some kills to back it up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they got the B point already secured just like that. B point, I would honestly say, is the harder point to secure on this map. It's usually the one you hit on the open and break. Either when you gunfight or you don't. But beautiful opening out of Texas A&M to get that B point secured in there. They've already up, I'll say, 6 survives as well, which is huge. The side of Texas A&M.
And that's where we got to get things really underway. I mean, you talk about the B site, how difficult it is to go ahead and hold on to. And quite frankly, when we talk about Texas A&M and strengths in the SMGs, that's why they probably want to go ahead and knock that thing out. But now it comes down to the ARs. It comes down to this long range. It comes into the A site where you once again kind of see these kind of in absolute tears. Purdue now aren't really on their toes anymore. They're not having to guess on these sites. They know that we just got to hold A. We got to hold these long lineups. And quite frankly, with ISO not really having an AR there to work with, you know that you're going to be losing that fight. Once again, you need to understand where you excel. And quite frankly, this is where Purdue knows that they can start to excel a little bit. But even better yet, Texas A&M going for a little bit of a setup, knowing they had the life differential. They were leading by 5 in that department. They can go ahead and spare some lives. But they got to watch their back in the meantime. You see Echo going a little bit of a flank there for a second. And H2O just finding themselves a pick off the back of it. So you need to see kind of how things are going to play out from the rest of it. Stall these guys out, get an understanding of where they're playing from, execute off each other, and you can even see it there towards that top balcony. Already knocking out these players once more. Barely any time you kill in for Texas A&M and Purdue, quite frankly, not even worried about touching that site to mitigate that progress. They just want to ride out because they know that they could probably win the gunfights at the end of the day, making that difference of 5 now dwindled down to 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, beautiful hold out of Purdue to kind of try to lock Texas A&M in, but that #1 on the map right now, he's going to be crucial. If he can find Kaiser here, get behind the lines, if they get the timing right, I mean, that's going to be massive. Doesn't look like he's going to, though. One of his guys is going to fall. But, I mean, ISO's still there, though. He's going a little rogue in the top building. If he can get this pick, he could break the setup, but unfortunately, he's not able to get it. So, I mean, it's looking really good for Purdue, holding down this A site and kind of just holding them in their spawn. I mean, this might be the only chance they really have to get out here. Just like that.
It's over and over again. I mean, you see the SMGs pushing the balcony. You see them kind of pushing these doors, holding an entire expo area. The entire courtyard is just being held down by the ARs. They're understanding their priorities to a T, and they're just kind of really playing off that. They understand where they start to excel, and just because of that alone, they haven't let the side be touched, but that's just because off the back of so many consistent kills, you see them just holding these angles and these corners so darn well that just seems like Texas A&M really can't find the time of day. So you talk about that B side being a little more difficult. It was the one that was held down, but even then, once again, it was because of the elements of surprise. You're not facing 4 players off the get-go. You're facing only 2 necessarily, and that's where Texas A&M, because it was inside, they say we can go ahead and run through that thing, but ever since then, you saw what Purdue could do in the open space, and quite frankly, it was marvelous to see. So going into the next one, swapping sides a little bit, we can see possibly whether or not Purdue wants to take that same route, whether or not B has become a little bit more of a trend, or more that if just we're playing into comfortability here. We're just looking to grab these sites, get down and gritty when it comes around to that B site, if A is just grabbed right off the get-go. But we're going to see where they're starting to hit things. They're going for a 3-1 split across the map, at least on the side of Texas A&M, but I think that's because Purdue's going to do the same thing as them, and that's not the case. They're finding a large A-hold off the get-go, but not without sacrifices in its own right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it'd be a beautiful opening breakout of Purdue getting 2 just like that. And, I mean, honestly, they caught Texas A&M by surprise. Texas A&M had no... Didn't even give a second thought at them going A off the rip here. And it looks like these gunfight wins, A&M's not really going to be able to do much to stop A from being captured.
Yeah.
Now it's gonna be potentially just like the opening round for Texas A&M. You know, you got that first point early on really fast, but can you get past those defenses? Because it's a lot easier in Control to just hold down 1 point. You don't have to worry about team splitting. You don't have to worry about them going somewhere else. You can just hold down that 1 lane and just stay to it and lock on to it. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see if Purdue can get past the defenses here, and it looks like they can. They've just absolutely ran through everyone on the side of Texas A&M.
I don't know how interesting an entire team-wide is going to be here for the likes of Purdue, and considering they're just kind of running through now, they're accumulating these kill streaks to work with, and even then they can just kind of save those things for later. I mean, they are just kind of swiftly going through this B side. We talk about what they're capable of doing, and quite frankly, they've done it just again. And seeing how they found themselves a stance, a full round win underway. I mean, you're already sitting at 2-0, and I mean, for getting to 3 first, that's all it really takes. Comes down to their defense once more, and I'm really interested to see what they're going to do as an adjustment. Whether they just kind of completely give up that B side, knowing that, I mean, Texas A&M kind of tends to excel there, and they just say, let's just take our efforts to A. We find a setup, let things just kind of draw it a little bit. We can put some of our SMGs in there because, I mean, that's all we're going to do. But even then, we can kind of go for a 3-1 split in that regard just purely for the defense because we know that they're going to go ahead and hit initially. And even if we give it up, so long as we just don't lose as many lives, we'll win in the kill department regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like Purdue knows that they're better in the respawns than they are in the search, and they're leaning on that. They're playing on that. So I would think they're going to try to hit B maybe once on the defense, maybe twice, but they lose those gunfights early on. They're probably going to chalk it again, just like they did the first round.
Yeah, already just going ahead, giving them that space. He takes this A&M, go ahead and accumulate these successful kills so they once again capture B. So it's a formula that's working out for him, so you got to give him credit where it's due, but even then more so you got to look around the map, see what else is really available to you. And you can already see that the players are starting to move towards A, look for a little bit of an earlier setup to see if, like, Purdue actually gives up that space. But to a certain degree, you could say they did, but it's not really the biggest deal in the world because even then still B is going to be trying to be captured, but even then Purdue still, the players that were allocated there with so many still kind of on that A side of the map, B had a pretty solid hold, I'd say, considering you're not seeing the differential of 5 anymore. You're looking at 1. You're looking at keeping things even, and that's even then, once again, Purdue, after finding one more, they're just really accomplishing that and just looking to slow this game down and say, by the time they get around to A, let's just give them less time. Let's put more stress on them so we can find a little bit more kills and get maybe some more streaks to the next round, if it comes around to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Purdue's looking to do the exact same thing that they did last round, and hopefully, let's hope that Kaiser's body shot there doesn't come back to bite him in the future. You know, you don't want it to. It's never good to shoot bodies. It always comes back to get you.
Well, Hardy going ahead once again looking at this A site. We see the setup going up again underway, but even then with a little bit of a risky lineup going in there for Melski, it just doesn't happen, and Melski finds the kill at the end of the day. But all things considered, you see Lotus once again following up on the back of that, looking for this time, looking for the opportune setup to really execute onto this A site. But how much time is really given to you? You get a minute and 30. So don't freak out too much. You're pretty close on lives. That's why we see this kind of game slowing down a little bit. Seeing if kills are being given up, and you just kind of work off the back of this information. You need to push that side eventually, because every single pass by is just playing in the benefit of Purdue. Better yet, every kill right now is as well, as they now have a lead of 3, and they just kind of go through a tear. So that resets nearly the entirety of the team right back to spawn. They're going to sit back up, and even then they kind of find a different approach, because you don't know where these players are going to be. But thankfully, Isaac can find one off the get-go, get a little bit of a daddy to pop, and you can maybe find a different position to be taking this A site from. But the thing is, it's wide open. You got to get inside that building. They know he's there now. Already seen that contestation go through. But to what degree? From what angle? And quite frankly, that's Purdue's trying to go ahead and sniff out. They need to see who can overextend, because they know it's not everybody, and they've already found one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's beautiful out of Purdue not to overpeak, not to get too, overzealous here on the defense. And I mean, at the same time, Texas A&M, they can't really get into Hill. Purdue has a beautiful setup here, and it seems like every time that Texas A&M tries to push up and get into the point, Purdue's there holding every angle that they need to hold, and only 30 seconds left. It's looking pretty slim for the chances of Texas A&M.
It's those opportunities, man. We talked about it already. Seeing, I mean, you got to make the push eventually. You got to make those plays, and even then better yet, you can find the pinch just off the back of it. But now you're kind of in a situation where, sure, you're pretty close on lives, but you're not really touching the site. You're not finding the capture, and you're not contesting that time either to really stall it. So with 10 seconds on the clock now, things are getting really stressful here for Texas A&M. I mean, they can get it done, don't get me wrong, but it comes down to just really playing this game to a T. They've already found one of the kills. It's going to be thanks to Sanusa. You got to look at the rest of the squad and see what kind of exchanges are occurring there. Arrows finds at least one off the back of that as well. So knowing that Sanusa was the one to find that first blood, maybe he's in a power position, but you've got to make sure to be checking these angles. You got to swerve in and out and rely on the rest of your team, which they are doing on that site, quite frankly. Already with one tick underway, but even then, eventually, H2O is going to find his way through the cracks, just like water itself, and find a couple of fractures to really just go ahead and exploit. Even then, exchanges going through, A site being contested. Kaiser with a good idea saying, hold back, don't really do anything too much just yet. You got that second tick going underway. There's 5 seconds. You need one wipe. You just got to wait things out, make sure to get these guys down, and reset them back to spawn. And as H2O does manage to do that, 2 seconds on the clock, you know this thing is just closing up shop.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like you said, I mean, Texas A&M, it was a good round out of them, but they just didn't get on that point at all. They had full control of that building right on the A point, and they just almost seemed like they refused to just get on it, stop that time, and try to play a little corners. They were too worried about trying to break Purdue's setup and get a kill or two on Purdue rather than worrying about that time, which ended up biting them at the end.
I was in those longer lineups too. I mean, when we saw that kind of scenario, that little stalemate that was occurring right across that A site during that last round, where it seemed like the lives were even, the time was there, everything was given to them, but they just wanted to see if anybody would overextend. And when you look at those long lineups, you're not going to find necessarily just clean, concise kills. You're going to have to get enough shots to really warrant and guarantee those kills. And quite frankly, the distance is just not going to happen. They're going to peek you, take a couple shots, know that they're going to be fine at the end of the day because you're not going to be spamming nades or anything. That's more for the kind of post play, getting on that site, holding it out, drowning those players and slowing them down for their entry. And we just didn't see that come out of them. Texas A&M, we talk about their kind of stance and their status when it comes down to these respawn games. And I think, honestly, the respawn didn't look bad for them. I mean, they did a really good job considering what we saw in Hardpoint. And honestly, we can just kind of brush it off maybe and say it was just a map set. Maybe they're not the biggest hotel team because their spawns and kind of how they played everything out was good there. But once again, it came around to that point where you're kind of thinking a little bit of a search and destroy mentality, a little bit more of Hardpoint, saying, let's go ahead and set up for next, kind of hold things out. Let's play a little bit slower right now. And Control, that's not going to work for you, Chief. I mean, I think if it was the first round, if they implement that same exact thing where they had the B Control immediately and captured it flawlessly, you can consider that route and you can get a couple more flanks in. But I mean, at that kind of point where you're already seeing in a minute 30, you got to start putting your pedal to the metal.
Yeah, absolutely. And Control is just one of those game modes. It's all about the trades. And if you, those that saw the scoreboard, I mean, on the side of Purdue, there was only one person that didn't have double-digit non-traded kills, and that was 9. And every single player on Purdue outside of that had double-digit kills that were just non-traded kills. They were firing off at long range, and they weren't coming close to getting traded, which unfortunately, you know, got Texas A&M in the end. They weren't able to get those trades, and it cost them.
And I think, quite frankly, I mean, with that being said, and knowing kind of how that's going to work out, the long range obviously looking like a little bit of a strong suit here for A&M and Purdue to a certain degree. But knowing that the SMGs are going to be excelling here, that's where we get to see a turn in the game. We talked about Hotel not really being the strongest suit there for the likes of A&M, seeing what they did in that first round. But the next 2 maps, back-to-back, are going to be Embassy. So this is a place where you can kind of see both of those avenues really just come to light here. You got the outer skirts of the map where the ARs excel. Even then, you got a pretty long lane there right down the middle, which never really gets contested too much, I'd say. But even then, on search, is going to be guaranteed that we're going to see those lineups, those defaults, those snipers meeting up immediately. We're going to see when it comes on to Hardpoint, though, that's where there's a big question underlying, because knowing that Purdue is now on Series Point and going to close this entire thing out, you got to take it to a map 5. And I think, honestly, this is the big determining factor here, because if it goes to map 5, seeing how S&D went, Texas A&M really may have a shot to kind of get things going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was kind of leaning towards the fact that maybe, you know, A&M was a 2-3-5 type of team, but that Control just did not go their way in the slightest. So, I mean, Texas A&M's going to have to steal this hardpoint, and with the amount of AR power that you need for an Embassy hardpoint, it's going to be rough from the side of Texas A&M for what we've seen so far out of their ARs. Lotus is holding his own, but his AR duo, possibly even a trio if they decide to pull out that third AR setup like most teams do on the Embassy, they're going to need to step it up, and they're going to be able to win these long-range gunfights.
I definitely think so. They're going to have to fuel themselves up a little bit to get ready for this next map. And speaking of fueling up, what else better to do it with than Monster? Obviously, getting your energy likes underway, even then with zero sugar, juice, coffee. They got it all, man. If you just don't want the kind of whole soda thing and you need something else, they probably have you covered, knowing that, I mean, they do absolutely all of it. Even zero sugar, as you can see right in front of you, even if you're on a diet, there's no reason you can't get yourself in a little bit of caffeine for the day to get things going. So even then, speaking of getting things going, we're not taking a break for this one. These players want it. They want to play this thing out, and even as we missed the rollout, that's completely fine because, well, quite frankly, it's Hardpoint. It goes. It gets going, and you find blood back and forth all over the place. So with already 5 seconds underway, Purdue found themselves a little bit of a stance on the map, but it's not the biggest deal in the world because even though it's a much better hold initially in a Texas A&M than we witnessed when it came around to Hotel, because good God, we were looking at what felt like 16 so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and what a wonderful break off the rip by Texas A&M. They had bad spawns, and they've already seemed to somewhat flip Purdue out and give them those gas spawns, and they're winning their gunfights, something that we've not seen Texas A&M do early on in a hard point. They're firing off on all cylinders right here early on.
Big sense here, going ahead, going off the board here. I mean, just going ahead and holding that thing out. We know what comes around to the first point of hard point when it comes around to the likes of NSL. You don't want to touch that site. It is in the middle of so much stuff. You don't want to mess with it, and you know you're going to be dying immediately if you do. And you want to make sure to kind of get these streaks in the way of possible. So it's good to kind of go ahead and leave it alone unless you get a map control. But speaking of map control, it is going ahead and panning over to the likes of Texas A&M once more. So a good stance for them, knowing they can get a couple of points on the board. They can find this good looks for them. They already go ahead and start 10-1. But even then, Purdue, they have to look for that break. But Lotus is locking it down and making sure it doesn't happen. It's a noose in the back of the map as well. Can go ahead and kind of find that lockdown, work towards that site, and say, look, if you go ahead and do break our line of scrimmage, I'm here to make sure to give you the sack.
Yeah, I mean, just like that, for Texas A&M coming out of the gates, just they're not missing. And it's something that they lacked in that first hard point, and it's looking really good for Texas A&M, especially if they want to send it to that map 5. Just as we say that, beautiful break out of Purdue, getting those much-needed points, hopefully picking up the scrap time. It's going to be a tie game, roughly a 1-point game, I believe, if they're able to secure all this scrap time, and then they get 3 down. They have almost full rotation for this next hill. This fight between Melski and Echo is going to be huge.
Yeah, when it comes on to Purdue, and especially on a hard point, we can't really say could too much, or if they can, because they most definitely can, especially when H2O is alive. So knowing already, I mean, getting these stances, finding these kills necessarily, and even then just locking this thing out, and having the rotation, picking up the scraps, picking up the initial, it's a good look by them to make sure they can just kind of find this way through. But already, not only did you have H2O on site holding things out, but you see another player up there towards top office, goes ahead and gets sniffed out, but that's just Texas A&M and the job they have to do right now. They have to search the entire map, because even then, they know they're not going to be able to find a break, and once they do, they still got absolute units up top, getting fragged out by a Simtech. So this could be the time for a break if they really need it, but good God, do they have to run for it.
Absolutely. I mean, beautiful nade out of Lotus. Pick up 2, but just like that, I mean, they have the 20 seconds, but they hop off point and focus on the kills more than they do the time, something that they, you know, kind of struggled with in the control. Obviously, it's too early to, you know, say they're struggling with it now, but hopefully it's not something that, you know, it's not a trend that you want to continue if you're on the side of Texas A&M.
But you grabbed so much time on that last site that, I mean, you can just kind of have free real estate to rotate wherever you want. I mean, nobody's really stopping you, quite frankly, except for Texas A&M on the next one. We talked about their kind of likelihood of being to the next site, kind of hitting the cut a little bit faster on the next one, but even then already, Echo to find 2 kills, kind of cut a couple of these players down. You got to look at the spawns where those things are starting to move, what the setups are looking like, how quick you get to the site, because even then with it being so close, every single second matters right here, especially after Purdue found themselves such a surmountable comeback, capturing the entirety of that P3. So as things are kind of getting underway here for 5, you know, right there towards that secretary office, you got to see these kills going away for Texas A&M, and it seems like Purdue, especially with just kind of Echo being the only one relatively towards site, you're saying they're not flinching, guys, they're not kind of doing anything, there's 15 seconds left, we should probably just go to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, I mean, Purdue's got the rotation, so this is a huge money hill for them if they can hold this kitchen spawn and get the gunfight wins. I mean, beautiful rotations though out of Texas A&M. Something they struggle with on the hotel were the rotations and winning those gunfights on the rotations. So I mean, huge turnaround between map 1 and 4 here.
I think about what really was going on here. I mean, knowing that you're now on P5, you're looking at the rotation once more. This is an easy little cut over back to P1 if it really comes around to it. But how many fights you need to take? How many are you going to win? And quite frankly, it's Purdue coming out on top with that. So we see that these initial holds, these players that get to fight first, they're the ones who are typically holding the entirety of that thing. I mean, it's just a one-sided fight, whoever gets first in the cut. But Lotus could have something to say about that with the 2K coming through. Now make it 3, man, it's just running out. But all things considered, still, contention is there. Purdue is kind of surrounding the site, but ISO is thankfully there to kind of set that line, say, don't cross this thing, it's a roadblock, and you're going to need to look at the next one if you want to get yourself some more points to work with.
Absolutely, and going back to P1, it's really hard to get those points as well. So Purdue, they just kind of have to play damage control for this next hill, hope that they can get sponsored P2 and chain the P1, P2 rotations, but they also have to just, you know, play damage control and stop Texas A&M from getting more points as well, so this lead doesn't get out of hand. It's already down 41 points. It's getting kind of out of hand for Purdue, and it's interesting because we've not seen them on their back foot, you know, honestly, that much. That control, or the search and destroy, was a little bit rough, but outside of that, I mean, Purdue's kind of dominated so far, and Texas A&M's flipped the script here.
I mean, well, it shows they're mortal, right? I mean, we haven't really seen that out of Purdue too much except for the S&D. I mean, you know, these kind of hard point scenarios, you kind of are immortal. You just kind of respawn immediately, but it comes down to how well can you set up those respawns? How well can you get to these sites? How well can you hold it down? And even then, you see these fights just going down. Even then, maybe by pure luck here, just working out for them, you got to take these opportunities for granted. You got to get onto the site. You got to find these holes. But even then, once again, we see the rotation. You see it being on P1. It's just another of those times where you're saying it's a gentleman's agreement. Nobody really touched site too much. Just find your kills, get your kill streaks, set them up for P2, set them up for P4. But as it stands right now, I mean, it's just a good look for them to just kind of find this stride for Texas A&M to get themselves a couple of points. It's not looking like a 100-point differential just yet. I think, quite frankly, with already P2 being in the control of Purdue, and they're finding 2 kills on the back of it, just looking for these resets over and over again. But, I mean, to see what's going to be happening, and even then, a little bit of a awkward fight coming out from ISO to win that. But all things considered, I mean, still, while you're going ahead and finding on these outskirts of the map, that site is being contested. That site is being touched. And you've seen already arrows grab a little bit of pointage out of it, but it's not going to be enough to really make the biggest difference in the world because it's only a drop in the bucket, and you got to look for kind of pounds, gallons of water right now to really get yourself back in.
Absolutely. I mean, just like Embassy, I mean, it's all about the money hills. I mean, there's a good chance, just like that, three down, this huge 25 seconds out of Purdue, and this gunfight between H2O and Sanusi is very crucial. If he wins this last gunfight, oh, it looks like Arrows picked it up, just like that. I mean, beautiful rotations out of Purdue. They're chaining the scrap time from P2 and getting control of the top AC. This is where Purdue can get right back in this game.
That 40-point differential that we're seeing just kind of being in a stalemate right now here for Purdue and Texas A&M, and this is what we saw in Hotel as well. We saw Texas A&M able to go ahead and grab a lot of scrap time, kind of keep themselves together in the game just by that small little margin of one side. But that was kind of earlier on the game. We're sitting at the midpoints right now. Both teams are past 100, and you're still keeping it this close. I mean, this could be the time for the likes of Purdue to really set things up into high gear and find themselves in retaliation, especially sitting on this hill specifically. We saw this P3 before, and we saw they held almost flawlessly. But it's not really that same exact opportunity anymore. They're not set up on it initially. The one player that was got fragged out. Didn't really find too much in exchange. The player that found the tray was off site. So you're not really accumulating those points. You're really just going ahead and making sure to get that margin to be just narrower and narrower. But good trades come out for the side of Purdue once more. It gets them a little bit more time. It's going to put them right back to that 40-point threshold again, to where they have to find at least another hill back to back to really go ahead and surround themselves as a contender in this.
Yeah, absolutely, and just like it's been all game so far, and Texas A&M's been on the rotations. They've been winning the gunfights on the rotations. This comeback here out of Purdue is going to just solely base on if they can get these kills in the back here. Lotus is pushing up. If he can get 1, maybe even 2, it's going to be huge from the side of Texas A&M to get that break.
Most definitely will be. Already going ahead, kind of closing that gap a little bit more now, sitting at only 26 points. I mean, things are getting closer and closer here. So, I mean, everything's looking feasible here for Purdue, but even then it comes down to the numbers of their team. Texas A&M looks like they're alive a little bit more, but it feels like they're also kind of making sure these holes are kind of panning out for them. And even then, off the back of a 3K coming out, with the help of Sanusi squad, you can make sure to get yourself a little bit of a wipe coming out, and even then to kind of establish yourself into that next point, which is obviously towards that bottom office. So knowing that, I mean, kind of the risk that comes around with P4, you got to make sure to really just hold this thing down. And even then, I think Texas A&M has it to a science. They looked outstanding in the last time when they were really holding it down. And quite frankly, we've already seen Purdue give it up, and they're looking for the next one. But they're saying, good God, it feels like they had the entire team in the last point. Now they're already in a 2-2 split, picking up scraps, picking up a little bit of a next. What can't they do, quite frankly? Well, they can't really hold the outskirts all that well, because you do see these fights going underway. You see these kind of gunfights go more towards the side of Purdue. If they can land these shots, come on, Lotus, there you go. Closing things out. Took Sanusi to get it done. All things done and behind us. It's now once again the side. Right back in kitchen. You're still holding it out, and Texas A&M just couldn't really hold on to it. They had 2 players there initially, but man, Purdue just ran through them and found control of it almost immediately.
Absolutely. That 3-piece was beautiful out of Purdue, and if they want to get back in this game and have a chance of winning this map, this hill right here is the one to do it. This hill can completely switch and swing the momentum for any team, no matter how far down you are. Man, my goodness, Purdue is firing off on all cylinders now. Just like that, we got a tie game.
Yeah, I mean, this is the round they need to do it. We talked about that one hill, those back-to-back that could really just do it. And even better yet, Purdue were able to do it almost near flawlessly. Still, just once again, running through these players. Guys trying to break that hill. It's not going to happen for them, and they just can't really touch the entire map. And with a quick little, hop and a skip towards P1, you're going to have a player already prone there, just picking up whatever time, because P1 is just, once again, an absolute bloodfest. You can't really get too much off the back of it. So anything at all, quite frankly, is going to help you out. That could be the differential to hit 200 first and say we can just lock this thing up at one side. But already kills going on the side of Texas A&M. They're finding the spare time. They're actually scrapping together a pretty good chunk of change, considering it to be P1. And with 30 seconds still on the clock, you're looking to kind of see where P2 is going to lean towards, what players can find these spawns, and they can set it up for going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, beautiful gunfight wins out of Purdue. you know, they're coming back in this game. You know, they've tasted that comeback. They've tasted the victory almost, and they're looking to try to close it out here. Beautiful gunfight wins. I mean, obviously they're not going to be able to get much of that scrap time, if any, but they played damage control. They've done what they needed to do and gotten Texas A&M off of that hill. So no points going to Texas A&M really on that P1 hill. Same goes for Purdue. I mean, they got a point or two, just like that. It's a tie game going into P2.
Big sense they're coming up from A&M, finding the initial points on this P2 site, looking to go ahead and get that lead, hit 200 first, but it's not going to last very long. Their reign's going to be very short, considering that you now have these streaks coming out, and they're just going to be able to hold things out, just considering that the streaks will buy them the time. They don't need to use their guns. They just get comfy. They look for a setup to get the information for any kind of stragglers, so you just kind of hunt these guys down like predators. So already looking good for them, but even in Purdue with an even better break. Rebounding off the back of those kill streaks like they weren't even tainted. But consider that doesn't matter all that much because, well, once again, the gunfights are going to come underway. You're going to see that, I mean, these retakes for P2 are going to occur over and over and over again. This is going to look like a recycling bin. Just knowing that players are going to kind of be refreshed out. They're going to come back in. They're going to find the kills. They're going to take the site, and you're going to see it over and over again. Knowing that even then, off the back of that, we saw the entirety of a round accumulating to a tie game for both these squads. Off the back of that P2, once again, we're seeing basically the exact same stance, but just a lot closer to that 250 threshold, while A&M once again pop another kill streak to get that info to make sure they can lock down that second site, because we saw what Purdue did with this in the first rotation. If A&M can close it out here in the second, it's just as good as done.
Absolutely. I mean, beautiful rotation out of Texas A&M. They needed to win one crucial gunfight, and ISO got two and a knife to get the second. An absolutely flawless hold out of Texas A&M, and just like that, Purdue gets right back into the hill. This is coming down to the wire.
Most definitely is. I mean, already 2 players down. You see the exchanges being made already. A&M able to go ahead and manage a couple kills, but even then, you still see Echo on that site, just holding that corner the entire time. And that's the most important part. He's just holding it out. He's finding kills. It almost feels like players don't know where he is. They want to check this kind of roundabout of grass every single time, but he's just holding that corner. He's checking that door. You can't come up those stairs. You got to find a different way, but it may take too much time because sitting at 43, you got to break out that Pred missile. It may result in a team kill, but you just want to clear out that area and beat them to the cut. 0 seconds remaining is the next rotation. It comes down to who touches this thing next, and ISO with a double kill can go ahead and slow it down for the entirety of A&M and possibly result in the dub in this, because you're sitting at 48, 49, and even with that last one, it is hook, line, and sinker. It comes down to the last second, but it doesn't matter because once again, Brax come out, Purdue close it up, and they say, look, first one, we got to win this hard point, and they did it the first time, a little bit closer on the second, but hey, they closed it out nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, wonderful comeback out of Purdue, and I mean, they did what they needed to do. They locked down that money hill, that P5 kitchen hill. They held it for almost the entire 60 seconds, and that got them right back in the lead by 2 points. I mean, they were down 60. They got the hold. They won the gunfights and absolutely locked it down against Texas A&M, who they came out firing. I mean, they were not missing. They were flawless on the rotations. They were doing honestly great compared to that first hard point. And just like that, Purdue flipped the switch and it was over after that.
And I mean, that's the whole thing that we really had to look at, was whether or not it was a hotel thing or whether it was a hard point thing, but we couldn't really tell just yet because we hadn't seen the other hard point yet. I mean, and thankfully, because quite frankly, when you look at these kind of teams, you look at them on the first map and you get these first impressions, obviously with the first that regular season going way off stream, you get these points now where you're saying, okay, what are these teams made of? We know their records, we kind of know what they've accomplished. Where do they excel? Where do they look good? How do they get here? And really warrants them being here in the first place. And after that first map, I mean, you and I were talking about it. We're just kind of like, where is it for A&M? Where is it? Because I've seen this Team U squad before. I've seen every single Texas A&M team just kind of go crazy. And you're saying, all right, they got to have something here. And their search looked great. Their control, you're saying the respawns were kind of iffy, but even then, it was a 3-0. It doesn't really matter that much when you kind of look at the stats. If you were there for the game, it looked pretty darn even across the board. But knowing that, I mean, how it worked in that second hard point, you're saying, I get it now. It's just a map. It's not the mode. They know how to do it. Obviously, they can't win games if they don't win hard points, because that hard point's the majority of the actual modes. But still getting through it, you're saying, okay, yeah. This makes sense now. This kind of adds up. It looked a lot better that time around. It just took a lot more of, I'd say, a gritty map to do it, and where you can have these kind of range of gunfights instead of just the SMGs rolling through. And even then, you got to consider just kind of starting things off. And you said it earlier today, you can be rusty and kind of come into games not really kind of feeling yourself too much, but once you get kind of acclimated with what's going on and who the major threats are and how they kind of work their way around the map, things become much easier to read.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's exactly what happened with Texas A&M. I mean, they started out a little slow. I just think maybe it was a map thing. Maybe it was just they started out slow. Who knows? But I mean, outside of that, that match was really, really close. Even the control, like you said, even though it was a 3-0, all of those rounds came down to the wire. I mean, beautiful match out of both teams, and it was really fun to watch as well.
Well, that's not the end of the action for the night, though. While that does conclude that first series, obviously closing out in a 3-1 for Purdue Northwest to close things out, we do have Akron and Shenandoah coming up next, which is also going to be its own banger, because I know everybody knows those two squads if you're here for Call of Duty, and you're going to get a lot of it coming up here soon. So we'll catch you on the other side of this break with a heck of a lot more.
Los Angeles Comic-Con is back at the LA Convention Center December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Meet stars from hit movies and TV series like Matt Smith, Jamie Campbell Bower, Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, Rainn Wilson, and so much more. Shop over 800 exhibitors and artists. Experience the vibrant cosplay community and immerse yourself in the gaming and anime hall with tournaments for Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter all weekend long. Get your tickets for LA's favorite comic, gaming, anime, and pop culture convention at ComicConLA.com.
When the bass drop.
welcome back everybody here to the NSL League. We're getting the second match of the day underway between the likes of Akron and Shenandoah. I was already checking chat before we even got the likes of the ad breaks, and you guys are already ecstatic to see your squad show up. I want to see some love from Shenandoah, though. I want to see kind of the actual game unfold, not only inside the match in the lobby, but better yet in chat to let everyone know who's here supporting their teams. Better yet, my name is going to be Mick. Obviously, once again, joined by Stan. We just covered the last matchup, which was going to be Purdue Northwest, and even then against the likes of Texas A&M International, which was a 3-1 series won by Northwest. A good stance there. The scoreboard doesn't really say too much because TMU did a absolutely wonderful job really kind of putting themselves on the board, but it just wasn't enough to really get the job done. And obviously, I mean, y'all are all loving what's going to be up here next. So Akron, Shenandoah, we could talk about them a little bit. We could even kind of talk about their rosters to a certain degree because, well, those are going to be the gunners and the guys really behind the scenes here today to get things going and to really show us what they're made of. That's going to be Thieves, Biohazard, Shelves, and MZ on Akron. And then you got Steve-O, Mossman, Relic, and Toxic here for Shenandoah. So obviously, this is the game that people were kind of waiting on. These are the guys that you're going to go ahead and be screaming their names through the entirety of it and hoping to be making these clutch plays, find these kill streaks, and better yet, just win a match by the end of it all. But we could go ahead and dive a little bit into the maps better yet, considering that, I mean, we have seen these guys before to a certain degree. I feel if you're in the COD scene, they both made an appearance. You know what they're made of. The COD scene here on Twitch, or not Twitch, but more the collegiate scene, we all know each other to a certain degree. Y'all probably seen Stan before. He's competed here recently. You probably see me here all over the place to a certain degree. But considering, though, that, once again, one thing we also have seen is every single one of these maps over before. We're getting a Silo and Embassy twice. So the entirety of the series goes Embassy, Embassy, a Silo, or and a Silo. And that's even if we do get that map 4, number 5. But still, it's going to be 2 embassies guaranteed for us no matter what.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm interested to see the Embassy search and destroy on the side of Shenandoah. I do know that Embassy, when I had played them previously last semester in the spring in the CCL, they were pretty good at Embassy. Embassy seemed to be one of their stronger maps, so I'm looking forward to see how they match up against Akron here. Obviously, they got a few new players on the roster. It's not the same roster I played against, but it is going to be pretty fun to see how their Embassy matches up to the previous teams.
I mean, obviously making a run for themselves, so regardless, getting here to the playoffs so far. So, I mean, a good start for them nonetheless. But knowing they're going up against Akron, who will be kind of the higher seeded team coming into this thing, we saw that result. You can go ahead and kind of say, oh, well, we just know the records. We can go ahead and kind of assume that Akron's going to win this thing out. But I don't think that could be the further from the truth. I mean, it's not that Akron isn't going to win, but I feel like there's definitely going to be a good competition here regardless. Knowing that you mentioned Embassy and how strong the team is, I think they made themselves a pretty good change in ranks, kind of climbing the board a little bit. So knowing that Embassy was already a strong suit before, and now that they found themselves in kind of this top seeding scenario, and they want to go ahead and opt for it again, we should see an absolute just kind of fest when it comes around to these first 2 maps, because that's really what it's going to come down to. But better yet, that's going to be the hard point. That's going to be the S&D, the controls, where we see a little bit of a switch up, and that's going to be more of a sneak peek for map 5 if we get around to it. But that's a little bit, I'd say, more of a outlier, because map 5s, sure, those are always fun to watch. We always love to get around to them. But the hard points are really where it comes down to. And getting here right off the gate, starting things strong, finding your kills, showing yourself that you're a unit on the field, and really just kind of running through these guys is really going to set something strong. Even though we just ended on Embassy on that last map, we're going ahead and running it back once more, and we're going to see what it feels like on this hard point and how these two go about executing this game to a degree.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, beautiful opening break out of Shenandoah, picking up that time. The biggest thing, though, for them is just watching that top paper, watching those top windows. Those top windows are absolutely pesky.
Biohazard,
man, he's holding down their squad as well.
Going ahead and get things started there, Biohazard, starting things off, and even then, better yet, we see the likes of the entirety of the squad when it comes around to Akron, just finding themselves a good couple kills, just backing up over and over and over again. Shouldn't do a little bit on the back foot so far, but find themselves a majority of the time, but it's just by a very small margin that before you kind of hit those double digits of differences, you can't really mention them too much just yet. But already we see the double digits. Akron doing a pretty good job of holding down this middle of the map, find that P1 time on the board, but it's never really going to last all that long because it's only 11 seconds on the board. You're looking for P2, you're looking to get that Sanch, you're looking for the outside, you're looking for the spawns, better yet, because it feels like Shenandoah is just giving it up a little bit because they know P2's underway, but they don't really care all that much. They found themselves a pretty good chunk of time when it came around to P1, and they're hoping it'll be enough to really execute on the second site, find enough to really hold things down, and even then just find a little bit of an execution here, and that's exactly what Thieves is doing. bottom office, just going through, having a little bit of run, having a little bit of fun, and better yet, going ahead and just capping off that gun. So make sure to get a couple more. Shouldn't do it. Find the exchanges. They find themselves a hill time, and it just comes down to the break now, which MZ's just doing a great job of dismantling.
Yeah, both teams are doing a wonderful job here. I mean, it's just going back and forth, back and forth. One team gets 10 points, the other team gets 10 points. Looks like this map may go the distance, honestly, so far from early on. I mean, it's going to come down to whatever team gets that money hill and gets that slight advantage, but honestly, it's just going back and forth between each team.
As these picks there, Thieves just going ahead and running into it. I mean, we see Akron, they're the ones engaging these fights, and when it's on their terms, they are just locking up shop. It's really impressive how they do it, but even then, Shenandoah with the high ground. They're the ones that are able to just kind of find these convenient kills, just kind of hand it to them on a platter. You're looking at these peaks, you're looking at these angles, and finally enough players to kind of go ahead and surround the likes of one to open up that tennis court and maybe look for some real estate. But it comes into the players all sitting on top staircase, going ahead, touching that site, holding that corner, seeing if they can find somewhat of an actual kind of hold, this war of attrition going in their direction, and quite frankly, they have done it. The entire team wide, you're just sending these guys right across the map because of the way they're spread out. You can just tell that they are not allowing any squad spawns to come through and give them some kind of free jump, a couple seconds of leniency there. They're just literally mowing through everybody, and it just feels like there's not enough players that can really stop you to get there.
Yeah, and just like just like we were saying earlier, Akron, they get that scrap time. They get those 20 seconds of scrap time. You think, man, Akron's finally got that little bit of a lead. We got a 20-point lead on the side of Akron. Just like that, Shenandoah, Money Hill, just like I was saying previously, and they're up 30 points now. And looking to take control of this game, and if they can break through the setup here of Akron, it's going to look a little bit not good for Akron.
It comes down to this bottom office where you see the next hill already going their way. Akron wanted to set up for it. That's exactly what they did. They already found themselves one, but Biohazard was getting caught out on the outer edges of the map, and this guy trying to hold the spawns. It all comes down to the rest of the guys who are actually on site, or not the shots are actually going to land, and they do, but a little bit of a plot twist there for Shenandoah, breaking onto it, able to go ahead and hold things down, immediately getting control of the map there, looking for, once again, that kind of tennis court real estate, seeing what players are about, just kind of lingering in those areas, and they are just doing an outstanding job of just making sure to stall for this time, and once again, find the necessary kills. They always feel like these outer guys. Steve-O, able to close them off again and again and again, resetting Akron's entire progress, once again, putting him in from what became a jog now into a sprint just to find some relevancy. But Aiden is able to go ahead and find at least two. This could be a time for a little bit of a break, but you don't really have any teammates there to back you up because Biohazard and crew are just getting popped off everywhere else.
Yeah, going back to what we said before, I mean, unfortunately for the side of Akron, they weren't able to hold down that rotation that they had. They had the setup, they had the rotation, and in a matter of seconds, Shenandoah absolutely broke through that setup and destroyed their rotation, and now they've got a huge lead on Akron. And same thing here, Akron could get back into this game if they can hold the rotations, but as you can see, Shenandoah just continues to get those kills, and they're just continuing to work Akron in their setups here.
Big stance once again, another Money Hill going their way, and it seems like Akron's the one who wants at least control of this one, already holding it down initially, finding some trades, but better yet, kind of starting things off with the initial row through. This could be a little bit of a leniency here, saying, look, we got some breathing time. We can find the necessary kills. We can go ahead and close things off here. But even then, it is only one player on site currently. And it's going to be the likes of Thieves. Going ahead and finding one, but it's not going to matter too much because, quite frankly, the rest of the squad's there. But some good trades come out. Biohazard can capitalize off the back of it. Close the door and give himself some space to say, look, this is now my territory. Maybe I can put the knife off, but it's not close enough because a little bit of range is going to be a little bit too much to actually close out. With 5 seconds remaining, you're looking for the rotation. You're looking to get right back around, but even then, mine is still P1 after we see that P5, and that's just something nobody really wants to touch, and quite frankly, not going to. Even though Shenandoah found themselves a good couple seconds off the back of it in that last one, with only a 20-second deficit, I think Akron can kind of equalize things here to a certain degree.
Yeah, honestly, beautiful work out of Akron to hold that P5 hill. And just like you said, nobody wants to touch the P1 hill because there's someone somewhere, whether it be on top bridge, be in the top window, bottom window, in the orange, in the kitchen, then no matter where you go, you are not favored on that P1 hill. So it's just honestly damage control out of Akron, but instead of doing damage control, they're getting themselves some substantial time here. Beautiful kills out of Akron, beautiful time, just like that. I mean, unless Shenandoah contest P1 for a little bit, Akron's going to get right back in this game, let alone get the lead too.
It'll be by a very small margin regardless, but it will be a lead nonetheless. But it already seems like Shenandoah, they want to make sure as a consequence to lock down Akron on this P2, make sure to give him no real leeway, and it only comes down to MC and as he gets stuffed out as well. So already good hold here coming from Shenandoah to get themselves the initial points, but even then, how is the retake going to happen? What kind of resource do you have available? No kill streaks on the board just yet, so no real kind of actual stance to be taking here. And once again, with Relic being shut down, that's your lurker. That's the guy setting that roadblock to even get on site, but it's okay because Steve-O's here for backup, sitting inside that bathroom, able to find a couple kills of his own, and making sure to stall out these players because that's what it comes down to. Do you have any kind of outer support in that parking lot? You do have a little bit, but they just keep on spawning there. That's all it comes down to. Akron finding trades, but Shenandoah finding time, and this is an objective game at the end of the day. As much as you think that kills are going to matter, sure, they're great, but hill time is much better, and you finally see them making sure to get themselves at home.
Yeah, I mean, great effort out of Akron to get the scrap time here, bringing them right back into the game again. And it's just like really reminiscent to the first P1 rotation early on in the game. It's just back and forth. Akron had that P5 hold to get them back in the game, and now P1, P2, 10 points here, 10 points there. And it's just, again, here we go. We got to see if Akron can break this P3 setup from the likes of Shenandoah. Shenandoah was able to hold it to huge success last time. It looks like Akron, they're finally starting to shoot back. They've gotten a little warmed up, and they said, you're not getting a full 60 on us this time around. Beautiful, beautiful take out of Akron there.
No, definitely overkill when you see the full 60 coming their way. Definitely not something we're expecting here out of either teams. I mean, we've seen 40, we've seen the likes of 35, we've seen heads, maybe even 50 once or twice. Still, you got to look at what's available here, and even then, what could really close things out. It's Akron once again after that beautiful hold on the last side towards the latter half. They are able to go ahead and transition to the other side of the map almost so fast, but just as fast, it's Steve-O finding a double kill, completely cleaning out that site, leaving it open for the taking of whatever team really wants it, but nobody's going to want it. The next site's across the map, and you want to make sure to set up for that one initially, and it's already Shenandoah on the heels, able to go ahead and get there first. 20 seconds of leeway here for the likes of Akron to go ahead and make this take come to life. But at what takes is it going to really happen? Quite frankly, not at all, because it seems like Shenandoah, they had the players there, and they find the kills more than importantly off the back of it, knowing that, well, this lobby, better yet, buddy, is ours, unless you're going ahead, overextending and meeting MZ outside.
Yeah, I mean, again, just like that, Akron is the one breaking Shenandoah's setups. It's very reminiscent to the first rotation of the Hills, but it's the flip side. Shenandoah had the rotation, had the setup. Akron comes in, breaks the setup. They get the full, close to a full 60, about 40, 50 points on that P3 as well. And they're soaking up all this time on P4 as well. So it's gonna be on the back of Shenandoah here to lock down that P5 kitchen. And if they can, I mean, it's looking really, really slim. One break from Akron could win the game here for this P5 kitchen.
Exclusively could be already sitting at 220. I mean, Akron, they're looking to close up shop here. I mean, it comes down to this last entire hill coming underway. You can see them trying to set up for it, but they know they got some leeway. They got about 80 seconds of time. They can find the setup whenever necessary. Just don't rush yourself too much. You need to find the necessary kills first, kind of frag these things out, get rid of any possible trophy systems, and just find the timing when they're placing them down and see if you can find a little bit of capitalization off of it. But still, frags coming in, tacticals looking to be kind of followed up as well, but none of it really comes to fruition when you see all of the players and all the trophy systems just populating this thing like an inner city suburb.
Yeah, and once again, Shenandoah just absolutely locking down this kitchen hill, just like Akron did the first set of rotations. It's really, really odd how the script just exactly the same, but just completely flips for each team.
Good lookings here, though. Regardless, even off the back of this hill, it's still going to be a level of equilibrium here. Akron's going to come down to this last hill. Shenandoah, if they keep on kind of playing like this, once again, it comes down to this last hill. But keep in mind, it's a full rotation. That's P1. And that's the one that we said is kind of like a doghouse. Nobody really wants to touch it. Nobody wants to get in there too much. So it comes down to what can you really do? How much time can you really actually find to find some, prevalence here? And we have seen both teams kind of take a little bit of an idea, a little bit of a dip inside the pool to see what they can really manage. And Shenandoah may be the one to really be the lead of that, knowing they've already found the necessary kills. They're going to close out these players, pick off two, and get a little bit of a touch in.
Yeah, and I mean, beautiful gunfights out of the likes of Akron and Shenandoah. I mean, they're just going back and forth, trade after trade after trade, and it looks like the trend is going to continue on this P1. Someone's going to get a few points. It might come down to deciding the game here, honestly, but, again, it's P1. Nobody wants to be on that hill. Very hard to soak up points here, but It's getting close. It's getting close. 9 more points needed from Akron to close out this game, and they get a 3 down from Shenandoah. And it looks like Akron may close this out unless there's not going to be a crazy play out of the side of Shenandoah. Akron's going to take map 1.
A small margin nonetheless, able to go ahead and close things out, 252-33, kind of reminiscent of what we saw as the conclusion of that last series. A good effort by both squads, and really, really good for Shenandoah to be showing up here initially. It's not anything like we saw with Texas A&M, you know, kind of slowing things down, not really finding something, and kind of saying, oh, let's hope they can kind of wake up and give us a series. They most definitely did, but here, already off the get-go, you can see the equilibrium. You can see these guys want it more than anything else, and the way they've gone about it, it just feels like there's 250 to 250. It almost feels like a draw game, but there has to be a winner, and Akron were the one to manage it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though Shenandoah lost, look at the silver lining. Steve-O had 31 kills and 23 untraded kills on a hardpoint map. That's impressive out of the side of the SMG on an embassy map. I mean, that's, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel there for Shenandoah, especially going into the search and destroy. Steve-O can keep up that slaying power and continue to win those gunfights. It's going to be good for Shenandoah.
An absolute unit. I mean, and even then, I mean, everyone on the side of Akron, I mean, I was going ahead and keep my eyes on Biohazard, but then it was Thieves and MZ who were really just kind of going and being those 2 highlight players. Are going to say, because I mean, regardless, at the end of the day, you get to have those kind of spotlight players, and even though it's a team effort, keep in mind, one player can't do it all, but seeing those guys be consistently finding what, maybe 2 and 3, and just kind of being the ones to break those hills or find those stalls, they're the ones that felt the most notable. But that's just on hardpoint. That's just how you're kind of funneling the utility out. That's just how you're kind of creating these stalls, putting up those roadblocks. What it really comes down to is how can you break that line of scrimmage when it's a 4v4 right off the get-go, and when you're looking for those necessary kills, because we're going right back to Embassy, but we're going to do it in Search and Destroy. So after the short little break, we'll go ahead and give you the entirety of what that's going to look like. We'll catch you then. Welcome back, everybody. Getting things underway once again with the second map here of the series. Once again, revisiting the likes of Embassy. This is the third time we've seen it here in a row for the entirety of this broadcast. Second time for the series, but it's going to be a little bit of a run back now with it being on the S&D here. You know, obviously, you can tell Akron's going ahead, starting things up here in terms of the entire series. Starting off one, they knew the hard point, but do they know the S&D? Well, they don't know what was waiting for them with the first split already going ahead and going underway here for Mossman getting that first pick on Defeave. So it comes down to the three-man looking to get that plant off. And better yet, out of the likes of Akron to try to go ahead and play that defense. And, well, I think they can do that knowing the bomb's already been dropped out.
A trade out of Shenandoah, though, looking to try to get numbers back in their favor. MZ's going to pick up Mossman. It's going to be Toxic up at the top window, but Sheila's Aiden has the chance. Oh, the hit marker out of Toxic is unfortunate. But Steve-O is there, picks up the trade, or the finish, I should say. But now it's on to Aiden. He knows that Toxic's going to be up in that window. He knows one's close on bomb. It's going to be a little tricky to get the win, but I mean, taking it down to 1v1, all he has to do is worry about the sniper.
Ooh! We knew
Toxic's
he was there.
ready for it.
Everybody knew he was sitting right there on the outskirts. Even then, after already checking top window, going ahead, getting the aim down, watching that bomb, that's all it really takes. And I'm going to go ahead and close things out there. Toxic going ahead. I found the hit marker earlier, but found a little bit of redemption there in that second one. So go there and Shenandoah getting themselves a pretty solid start, I'd say, to go ahead and start things off on the attacking side. They obviously had the aggression, consider what we saw in Hardpoint, to get themselves onto an objective, but holding it can do just that as well. Narrow margin nonetheless, but still getting done. We can see how this attacking side for the University of Akron works better yet, knowing that, well, now that they get to go ahead and show things off in their own right, we can see how their snipers hold themselves. Well, they even opt for it, quite frankly, because they just dive bomb across and want to get aggressive with it.
Looks like it's going to be another B hit. Bomb looks like it's going to go down fast, but because of those kills, seems like a little bit of hesitation out of Akron. Going to get another kill, though. I mean, 2 down on the side of Akron. Looking good. They're in control of this round, but they're a little scared to get that bomb down. I think they might have some sort of knowledge that they got a guy on top AC, so they're looking being a little slow, trying to feel it out, trying to find these last 2 players of Shenandoah. But with his teammates looking over him, it looks like he's going to get bombed down just fine.
It was just that whole kind of inkling of an idea of knowing a player's going to be towards the middle of the map. You don't want to get flanked immediately. You don't want to have a player give up top AC, as you mentioned, to kind of go ahead and look for that exchange going off. So you don't want to overextend yourself knowing there's probably a sniper waiting about somewhere. But already figured out the sniper, there it is in Toxic's hand once more, but not able to go ahead and find the kill necessary and gets killed out immediately afterwards. So in a 3v1 situation, Mossman has to look for some kind of route to make sure to get at least maybe 1 or 2 kills before even trying for that defuse. But you just keep on going for the pick. You have the sniper, and that's how you get your first. You get yourself a little bit of a scope down. Possibly have somebody swing out on you somewhere else. But the timing goes ahead and messes him up once more. So within a good idea of where the man is and a lot of spray bullets going off with 1 second remaining, you're not finding that defuse. You're not getting this round. Just don't give over a kill streak to anybody and see if you can go ahead and continue your own.
Yeah, great round out of Akron there to tie it up, get it to that 1-1. This map, though, is really offensive sided. You get to that B bomb so fast. And on defense, you're usually playing off your back foot. It kind of comes down to that person playing that Xbox mid-map area, whether you can get that flank, whether you can sneak up mid. And, you just kind of try to work a pick, because usually it just comes down to the offense getting that bomb down. If you get that bomb down immediately, it almost secures a round for offense in this game specifically. But at the same time, it all comes down to defenses and what they can do aggressively.
Speaking of getting it off immediately, you see 2 players getting picked off immediately. Shenandoah on this attacking side has just been an absolute menace thus far, it looks like. I mean, they find themselves a lot of aggression. They get themselves into the right placements, and they find the necessary kills needed. But you got to look at the rest of the map and what they've really accomplished so far on the defense. Things feel a little bit slower, waiting for the kills. Can't really go ahead and execute too much on their own. You know that Akron had a pretty solid read on the fact of how they wanted to stretch themselves. But already, once again, another player down, biting the dust. Biohazard being the last one standing, just kind of absolutely surrounded, bomb going off, and just having nothing but a sniper and a pistol to keep himself alive. Now, those pistols are menaces, don't get me wrong, but still, going ahead and managing to find all 4 of those players while getting that defuse off, you got seconds to do it, and quite frankly, it's just not enough time to get anything done. So already a second round underway there for Shenandoah. You talk about those quick plants, it seems like they have mastered the craft of that.
Their offense looked good, but it looked like they struggled a little bit on their offense. And Shenandoah hasn't really seen much, if any, resistance on their two offenses so far. So it's looking really good out of the side of Shenandoah.
It's all down to that aggression, too, because I mean, we saw it on the defensive side as well. I mean, they were already go ahead and kind of extended themselves to the middle of the map, drawing that line of scrimmage right down the center. But even then, I mean, it was Akron who knew that aggression was coming through. They know it's coming towards them every single time, it feels like. And on the attacking side, that's where they show it the most. They don't get aggressive for that plant. They look for the kills first. But even then, they don't end up finding it. It's Shenandoah once again opening things up. Steve-O finding that first blood and just leading Akron to kind of look for the shambles, look for any other player possibly looking to get something done. And Aiden is now officially trapped. You already given up that information. You know no other players out there towards the tennis courts. What do? Just hold it. Take all of these windows, look down that left side of the map. You know they're going to look for the backup. You know he's going for the plant, and it's just easy to kind of lock things up and saying, do we have anybody going for the flame? You got Toxic watching that, just playing slow and steady, giving any information if it really comes available. But everybody else is just holding down this B-bomb, just looking to secure any possible kills. And as soon as you see that it go off, that B-bomb just kind of go ahead and light up on your screen. It's going to be an easy pick to just kind of swing off the back of it. Biohazard creates a little bit of a leniency there for the rest of the squad, slowing it down, making sure when those extensions come out, you can find yourself a necessary kill to even things up. So this could be extremely plausible for both sides, better yet. But it comes down to this next one. A Relic could have given up just nearly by the tongue, but still a very quick exchange towards that window.
Just like that, Toxic picks up MZ and then gets another jumping down. Biohazard left in a 1v2. It's not looking very good for the side of Akron. Biohazard is in the better position here, though. If he can get the kill, can he get the reload off? Can't. Just like that, Shenandoah locks it down and steals the defensive win. That is huge for the side of Shenandoah, because how offensive side of this map is, if you can steal a defense, you are in the driver's seat.
Outstanding by them. Just going ahead, finding that lap around, going ahead, pushing top office. You have so much to work with there. You then had the sniper taken care of. All that bomb coverage is just completely mitigated within a matter of seconds. So good on them to actually find that retaliation. Even better to look for that route around the map to kind of show what they're made of. And it was all kind of there thanks to the likes of Toxic. Once again, checking to see if any route happens of their own. You see the kind of fights occurring through the middle of the map. You find an even exchange there, and you say, now we got plenty of real estate to push up on our own. But speaking of real estate, there's nothing but all of that there towards tennis courts, right down the middle of the map. You see it coming out once again. This B site is going to be an absolute octagon over and over and over again. That'll never change.
Yeah, and I love this about Shenandoah. You know, they have found what works for them on offense, and they're not straying away from it. A lot of times teams like to change it up a little bit, maybe get too aggressive, maybe change their positioning, or maybe even, you know, like, oh, let's throw them off. Let's go A, you know, let's do a little weird stuff. But not Shenandoah. I mean, they're locking it down, and they're doing what they're good at doing. Just like that. Akron's going to get two of their own. Get a 1v3 for Mossman.
One defensive round met with another. Akron able to go ahead and kind of really take things up in terms of that one, leaving 3 players alive rather than 2 there towards the end of it. And it just kind of shows how clean and concise they were with that retake, knowing that they don't really have to maneuver the entire map. They're just kind of looking for to play the tried and true game, look to see if these kills start to kind of peek themselves out. And it was Shenandoah who really kind of fumbled it there. You saw a player overextend towards the back of the map, look to get back towards that spawn, losing that gunfight, and then completely losing control of the element of surprise that could have been present somewhere else. And when you go ahead and lose that one, you're saying, well, that's even one less player now. They're probably all going to allocate themselves towards the bomb, and we can't really stray away from that. So sitting at 3-2 here across the board, Shenandoah getting right back on the attacking side. This is the one that we see Akron kind of slow things down a little bit. They're the ones who like to be respective with that bomb in hand, not really get too frantic. And Shenandoah, after kind of fumbling that last one on their stronger side, this is their chance to kind of go ahead and maybe bite back. But it's MZ starting us off here with that first blood. We see a good exchange here towards tennis court, and already 2 players from both sides just kind of seeing that they're just going to be down for the count.
Yeah, and I absolutely love the aggression out of Shenandoah and Akron. Both of them just met each other just back to back to back kills. Aggression from both of them. Looks like Akron comes out on the other side better than Shenandoah, but Toxic still has a pretty good chance here. I mean, always hard in the 1v2 situations with bomb down. Only got 20 seconds to work with. But there's always that chance. There's that chance he pulls it off. Looks like they're just going to snake him. He's not going to be able to pull it off, unfortunately. But just like that, Shenandoah goes up 4-2. Again, they're in that driver's seat just because of how well they've been able to execute on the offenses.
Well, with Akron going ahead and closing out of the one here, they get to kind of work with the tie game. So show that even then, Shenandoah's offense looks really good. I mean, Akron has really started to meet them in exchange of blows here. They're going ahead, finding themselves in a kind of back and forth, and it's looking good. I know that Akron, they were already kind of on the backside of things to start things off, and knowing that they kind of made sure to say, look, if these guys are just going to rush us, just meet them. I mean, we're not going to go, we're not going to find anything. We're not going to get the perfect opportunities. We can't let them have that swinging advantage to get around a corner and take us by surprise. So let's just meet them right there down the middle, find as many kills as possible, and just hope that y'all got to win those fights. And, well, Akron, once again, they've done it.
Yeah, just like that. I absolutely love this play out of Shenandoah. I love the A pushes on Embassy. It usually catches teams by such a surprise. And honestly, you don't know what's happening. If they're not pushing B right off rip, it puts the defense on their heels because there's so many places you have to watch on this map. There's so many lanes. There's so many possible routes that a team could take. You know, they show presence A, then they just instantly rotate B. Then they show presence B, and you're like, well, should we get off of A? Then they, you know, you never know. They might just sneak behind you A as soon as you rotate. And it's just, it really shows a good team defensively if they are able to counteract that non-aggression from another team.
You can already see the route going away there from number 6. I mean, Aiden, look at it, go ahead and get it, kind of a little bit of a flank going on there now, kind of getting into that bottom office building. That was that space that was created by that A push earlier. You got the team frantic. You made them kind of think of where everything's going, but they have absolutely no clue at the end of the day and can just capitalize up on the kill on the back of it. So making that 3v2 turn into a 1, and then a quick count, finding yourself at 0. Akron find themselves another round here, managing to get themselves the first lead here in Search and Destroy.
Beautiful defensive round out of Akron. Just like I said, you know, that's how you can tell if a team is well prepared for a Embassy map. If they can stop, you know, and just recollect themselves after that initial attack comes through and they're not instantly planting the bomb at B, they were able to slow down, get composure, and take control of that defensive round, which beautiful round out of Akron.
Yeah, good looks for them so far. Only 2 rounds to go to get themselves a win and find themselves up 2 inside the series, but whatever's left still lies here in the cards. Still got plenty of time, still got plenty of rounds. It's not a point just yet. So what does it really come down to? Well, a grenade to start things off on this part. Insane little start. Not too much of an actual engagement going on. You do get a little information that somebody's towards that back spawn, but I mean, that's going to be a default. You're going to funnel the utility down there anyways, hoping to catch them off guard when they're overextended, but that's not going to be the case in this one. Bomb will be lying on the outskirts there of that bomb, and you're looking to see if you can kind of get that thing planted, obviously. You want to go for those quick plants that we mentioned earlier, but that's not a case anymore. Already 50 seconds on the clock, not too much of a rotation. A's not going to be locked up anymore. You're going to be waiting for that bomb to go down and immediately just kind of going ahead and releasing the horses and see if they can go ahead and trample over these guys. Or maybe look for somewhat of an actual flank. It's Steve-O trying to look for it, but quite frankly can't really get too much done. Finds a lot of hit markers. Just can't find that kill on MZ without a little bit of assistance from Mossman. So in a 3v2 scenario, Akron are on the back foot. They find 1 off that vehicle demolition. So it's going to be good for them to actually find some equilibrium here if they want a chance.
Yeah, and just like that, Akron is in a 1v2 out of Biohazard. He's in the advantageous position, but at the same time, Relic here is sneaking up behind him, and this could be a huge gunfight between 5 and 4 here. If Relic's able to win this gunfight, he almost secures the round for his teammate, but he can't win it, and Biohazard's just going to play for time here.
Yeah.
Unfortunate side of Shenandoah almost responding with that defensive win, and it seems like the trend is changing, you know, that originally, they won the defense. Akron striked right back, won a defense, but this time around, Akron wins the defense and then follows it up with a really, really good offensive round. And Shenandoah, pressure's on. They need to start tightening up the little bit of looseness that they're playing in between these rounds.
The insane thing to me there is how Mossman had that control, was on the bomb, could go for the defuse, but decided kind of to wait, kind of take those turns instead and wait for that kill to be secured. Instead, you could actually kind of go ahead and pressure that player to be put in a situation where they had to make the work there. But instead, just kind of waited it out a little bit, saying, if honestly, okay, can Relic find this kill, then I can go for the defuse. But you need to put that pressure on him, but it didn't come out into fruition. But regardless, though, another round to go ahead and kind of rebound and not even worry about what happened in the last one. But you've got to see whether or not it can actually happen, because you know the bomb's going directly towards B. And Shenandoah, they are one of the faster planners that we've seen out of these 2 squads. So in a 3v3 scenario, now knocked down to 2. Shenandoah, those fast guys. Quite frankly, fast speed doesn't matter too much when you've already crashed, and you already see that so many players had done exactly that in a 2v1 scenario where it comes down to Mossman to clutch it up once more.
Yeah, left in a 1v2, not looking good for Mossman, especially with Biohazard. It's last round. He knows that Shenandoah has to plant the bomb. He has that cruise missile in his back pocket. There's not much Mossman can do here. He is in a very hard situation. I mean, obviously he can get that bomb down, but as soon as that bomb goes down, Biohazard, all he has to do is go for that cruise missile. Aiden tracks him down, and just like that, it's going to be an easy round win for Akron.
Yeah, this is your trophy player too. No daddy to work with, so you're just going to see players just kind of funneling all that utility at you when you don't have really any kind of a chance. But still, if the shots come through, you see that red missile coming out, just kind of accepting a little bit of defeat, but knowing that trophy system's there, that's the perfect counter for it to get that thing down, and then once again put Akron in a scenario where you have to fight. So that was a perfect setup. You had to find that first kill, and thankfully that kill towards window set up the perfect opportunity to say, look, now I've gotten the exchange. They thought they had kind of a trump card on me, but now the ace of the sleeve has now gone ahead and paid its dividends, and that trophy system has kind of created a little bit more time, created a window, and created a chance for a clutch that could keep this game running. So Biohazard versus Mossman, it's really what it comes down to. This game could either continue, or obviously we're going to go ahead and find ourselves in a brand new, not just mode, but a map as well. Biohazard has to win this, and it's an idea where the player is, can see him, doesn't really chow too much, but you know the time is going down. You know that it's sitting at 7 seconds, and honestly, all that has to happen here is Biohazard can just mess with the guy at this point. Mossman has won the round, paid the timeout, sat at 7 seconds, and you just got to pressure the guy at that point. He knows that he wants to go for the fight, but after using a Pred missile, you get a couple more kills to go before you really find something else. So good sense here from Shenandoah. Once again, just kind of working things out, patience and virtue, and just using every single bit of your kit to the furthest degree, as we mentioned, especially with that trophy system, going ahead and just blocking that Pred missile.
What wonderful 1v2 out of Mossman as well. I mean, Biohazard had the information with that cruise. Even though they did have the trophy, he knew what side the bomb was planted, and you could see he spent majority of that time, the timer, just going back and forth mid, waiting for him to peek back alley. And unfortunately for Akron, but fortunately for Shenandoah, Mossman played it beautifully. He was patient, he waited, he played the spot he needed to play, and Biohazard just happened to take a little bit too much time trying to get that clutch. Bomb's gonna go down though for Akron. Huge plant. I mean, still 44 though. No first blood yet.
We're still present on the map somewhere out there towards those tennis courts. You know it's going to happen every single time. I know players really going ahead and getting the idea what's going on there for the outskirts. It makes it a very easy push and a double kill for Aiden. So, I mean, that could be just the entire round in itself. You've already gone ahead and got the numbers. That's the sniper down for you. You're not worried about holding long angles anymore. That guy couldn't have really done too much for you regardless. It comes down to the rest of the team looking for an execution, trying to find the push, and that's exactly what's done. It is straight up shut down here for Akron. They got tired of that last round. Took a little bit too long for them. So they said, you know what, we're going to go for a fast plant and just kind of completely mitigate all that stuff that happened in the last one.
That was a wonderful, wonderful round out of Akron. And it seemed like Akron was on the back foot a little bit. Shenandoah was looking really, really good coming out of this. But it's just like that hard point. Shenandoah started to take the lead. And then Akron kind of flips the switch. And then they just start putting the foot on the gas. And what a wonderful game out of Aiden and Biohazard. I mean, MZ and Fees also having a good game, and it looks like good games all around. Unfortunately for the side of Relic on Shenandoah, struggled a little bit. He's going to look for the bounce back here in that map 3, but excited, looking really excited. I'm looking forward to a different map.
Yeah.
We're off of Embassy finally, so we're going into that LS Elo, which can be really fun.
I love that map, but even more so, I love seeing kind of the stat allocation of those guys in the last game. I mean, you talked about the entirety of Akron. They had their fair share of first bloods across the board, but even then, I mean, you still see shines of light of a couple players to let you know what you're dealing with in the next season come regardless of the result of this matchup. Steve Ho with 5 first bloods in an entire game. I mean, the guy was opening things up. He was the catalyst through that squad to those faster plants that we saw. And if it just didn't happen, it shouldn't be a reliance on him. It shouldn't be kind of that weight bearing him down to a certain degree, saying, you know, it's not your responsibility, but good God, were you good at it? That doesn't really matter too much. And you see the stance that were taken there by Akron, the way they were kind of playing those late rounds. When they saw the bomb go down, or when they kind of got stuck at a stall and maybe lost their first player, it shows the resilience out of them. With the majority of those rounds going where Shenandoah find that first blood, and Akron are always just able to kind of pull things out in a 3v4 scenario. That it kind of shows that Shenandoah are maybe overextending themselves in different areas of the map, or even then just knowing those numbers that it's still a 3v3. Keep in mind, they never hit the A site. Toxic was always on that side of the map, just kind of going ahead, playing with a sniper, with an AR, seeing if something's going to go overextend and kind of show itself. But the A site was never hit. So you were just constantly working in a 3v3 at that point. And Akron said, honestly, now that you guys lost your initial player, because Shenandoah, they're going to push up for that initial kill, he's going to get traded off immediately, and we still have numbers to play with at that point. And that's not going to be a problem in control by any means necessary, but still is a thing to kind of keep in mind if we do go around to, you know, map number 5, because that's going to be a big drawback that's really going to shut them down, I think, on a consistent basis, regardless of how close they were in this one.
That's the tricky thing about Search and Destroy and Embassy in general. a lot of the times, if you want that B attack works so well, but as
Yeah.
soon as it stops working, a lot of teams kind of just start panicking. They lose their footing. They don't do the things that they know that they should do, and they start playing a little bit loose, a little bit frantic. And unfortunately for the side of Shenandoah, that's exactly what happened. You know, they finally got stopped on that B site. The next attack, they tried to hit it again, then they got stopped early on, and then they just kind of all bunched up at the sign, and they didn't know what to do after that.
Yeah, well, with all that being said and done, obviously, we're going to get another map underway. But before we do that, I'm going to give a quick little shout out to the likes of Pizza Hut, Duncan, Mavix, all the good guys that we haven't given too much love to just yet, and even then Odyssey Mushroom Elixir as well. So even then going to this next one, we're going to be, once again, popping back in with the LSC low for control, so don't go anywhere. We'll meet you with it. Welcome back, everybody. We're getting things underway once again. If you don't like our faces, then lucky you, because you're not seeing them very much. We're just getting into these games, and we're getting ready to rumble as we can once again tell it. We talked about it already. LSC low control. It's where things are going to start off, or even then better yet, where things could end off. It depends on which one of these two squads end up winning this map, and quite frankly, with a little bit of a start, and when it comes down to Shenandoah going ahead and starting on the defense, this could be the kind of thing that they need, because they've already found themselves a pretty good bit of kills to kind of stall things out, and quite frankly, going ahead and pushing the spawns or just going ahead and capitalizing on the back.
Yeah, honestly, it's a great start for Shenandoah. They're able to get the kills, keep it even, keep it slow. Starting on the defense on any control map is your best friend when you're playing control. You want to start on that defense, get that early advantage. Because once you start going on control, it's really hard for a team to get back into, a big deficit. So on the side of Shenandoah, you're looking to lock it down and get a commanding defense, which...
Yeah.
So far, they're doing just that. Already 30 seconds remaining on the side of Akron, and Akron can't seem to get anything going.
Yeah, I think with that clock ticking down, it's not even a matter of whether this round's gonna be won by who or what. It's just more of is Akron, they're trying to get as many kill streaks as possible to help their attacking side at this point. They're trying to go ahead, rush for these kills, see if they can find as many as possible and just get these streaks underway to make sure their attacking side is going to be kind of seeming as suffrage. But at the end of the day, we do get a little bit of time there to work with off the back of Shenandoah. So good for them to at least kind of be touching these sites to a certain degree, and they're kind of going ahead and being there and playing it out. But man, yeah, you see a little bit more here. You see these players of Akron trying to go ahead and push up, trying to find these kills, and quite frankly, they do that. They do it once more, and they find themselves a clean couple there on the side.
Amazing work out of Akron. It looked like they were going to get no ticks, not even get any sort of advantage for overtime later, and then out of nowhere, they just lock down that A site. They flip that switch that we've been talking about every single map, and they just lock it down. They're down 6 in lives, but again, all it comes down to is just getting that wave of kills and locking down the B site to cap it. But it's like Shenandoah, they got that slaying on point this map early on.
Yeah. I mean, really good for them. Good on them. Considering, what we saw, and what we've seen so far, they're definitely able to kind of meet in terms of the actual fragability of these teams. But already, now Shenandoah kind of actually waking up and bringing that to life. But even then, better yet, Akron doing the exact same thing. Took them a little bit of time to get acclimated. Can't really freak out on them too much, but they have definitely gotten a little bit of how the flow of things are working. They're finding some consistent kills. They're kind of flexing around the map. They're protecting each other, and all while simultaneously gathering time. And that's all it really comes down to. You're at a point now where you got to go ahead and start pushing out of spawn, because these guys are kind of locking you up a little bit. But it may not matter all that much, because with 3 players on top, you're going to find this time regardless. And even then, so close, but close, no cigar.
Yeah, just like we had said prior, it takes one wave of kills, and then Akron stacks, and Akron gets a hold. Breakable. Shenandoah looked like they were going to win the more dominant rounds we've seen this entire series, counting S&D and as well. And then just like that, Akron flips that switch, turns the entire map on its head, goes from 13 seconds from losing, and wins the round. Down in lives as well.
Shows what they're made of. Just got to give them time. Just got to give them an idea, and man, they'll run wild with it. I mean, we've seen these adjustments over and over again already coming out from Akron, what they can really accomplish, and it just comes around to replicating that exact same thing on the defense. You talk about how easy it is to defend on these kind of control maps, and how difficult it is to win to attack. And I'm assuming if they can win attack, they could sure as heck nail down a defense, knowing the kind of fragility out of the squad so far. Already starting things off fairly impressively, I'd say, but still at a 2-life deficit. It's still a deficit nonetheless. You still got to break the stage simultaneously. So knowing the 2 players are going to swing on you near immediately, you can't really just win those fights. And Shenandoah are going to make darn sure you don't.
Yeah, Shenandoah is doing really, really well with the slaying so far on this map across both rounds. It's just, it comes down to the execution. As soon as Akron decides they want to execute 2 down just like that, completely stops the push. But Shenandoah is able to get a control. So, I mean, they get a little bit of time. They get 2 minutes to work with here. All they have to do is focus on doing the one thing that they've been flawless at so far, slowing it down, playing the game at their pace, and getting that good squad wipe on the likes of Shenandoah.
I mean, just seeing how they're playing this so far, I mean, they're definitely going ahead and managing that. I mean, the way they're kind of setting themselves up around the map, these kind of nice little concise angles they're getting them for themselves. They know they're finding these cozy little corners and just making themselves at home. And that's going to be the key here. Just keep on having the element of surprise working out for you. But every time you're transitioning, you got to make sure not to be sniffed out by an Akron player. And they've done a pretty good job of that so far. Still, making sure the lives are pretty darn equal across the board. Able to go ahead and manage one of those sides. we see Shenandoah kind of looking for these setups, looking for these kind of roadblocks as I mentioned earlier, but they just haven't nearly been as successful on this B side of the map, which is okay. It's a lot more open, so it's a lot more difficult to kind of push towards that spawn without overextending. But that's that fine line you have to look to know how to maneuver. And it seems like Akron are just going ahead and finding a good way to kind of break that down to a certain degree, so long as they just keep on swinging.
Great trades out of the side of Akron as well. Absolutely loving what they're doing defensively. But again, Shenandoah has the slaying power. I mean, they're up 4 in lives. And it doesn't look like Akron really has an answer right now for the slaying power of Shenandoah. It just comes out of the execution. And right now, Akron is executing a little bit better than Shenandoah, but Shenandoah is looking to tie it up. That's a huge 3 down, and the stack out of Shenandoah here could completely change things. All Shenandoah has to worry about doing is getting that one guy out of the back alley. And it looks like he's going to sneak behind him. He's going to get one.
Oh, did see the second. Well, it comes down to these big breaks, and right there, Akron could have just rusted this whole thing wide open. We saw it earlier, going right through the middle of the map, looking for that exchange there from the likes of Aiden. Couldn't really find too much in that scenario for a double, but even then, we do see that back up immediately, just recovering and looking to hold out on this B side, and that's what Akron really needed. Shenandoah didn't have enough players stacked on top of the site, so you didn't see that fast progression going ahead and creating a win for him just yet. And even as a responsibility, and better yet, as a consequence, we see them just going ahead and having nearly nothing to work with off the back of it. I mean, 10 seconds counting on the clock. You look for the pushes in Akron. This is where they're just kind of going ahead and saying, look, you guys are frantically running at us, and it's kind of at the point of the game where you got to throw everything at it, and we don't know if you're going to do it. So 0 seconds on the board. Akron, once again, being only 1 round away from winning this entire series.
Flawless game so far out of Akron. And honestly, what it comes down to is the biggest thing for me is the execution of both teams. We saw it in the search and destroy. We saw it in the hardpoint. We've seen it so far in the control as well. Both of these teams are good. Both of these teams can fry. They've got the slaying power on both sides of the rosters. But so far, Akron's execution and the way that they've been able to play together and execute on their plays together has been absolutely flawless in comparison to Shenandoah. It's minor things, but those little things, they add up, and they're adding up really fast so far in this first map. Akron, whether they're down in lives, got their, they're on their back feet or not, they've been able to lock it in, take a deep breath, and slow the game down and execute on what they need to.
We're eventually back inside. Akron, the team that we're keeping our eyes on, considering they're the ones who can kind of close up this entire game in a matter of mere moments. It comes down to whether or not they found themselves the initial kills, and, well, Shenandoah once again kind of starting things off here flawlessly. 30-25, finding 5 kills back to back to back. If they can keep this thing going, they can find themselves a streak, they can create some stalls, and they can find some easy shutdowns on these sites later on. It's really impressive seeing Shenandoah on the rollout. I mean, they just look outstanding. Every single time that last one, we talked about how close it was for Akron, how they just kind of looked like they couldn't close things out and kind of get themselves together, but we just got to see once more. Do they get adjusted? Do they find a little bit of a game flow going on? Do they find somebody to kind of break these back lines and really just dissolve the rest of the team to a point where they're just kind of at a little bit of a loss? And, well, you could do that to a certain degree, but even then the exchanges aren't really there, and because of all these fights that are going right down the middle of the map, you don't have too much time to really get a contest off to kind of stall that time until finally we see Thieves going ahead eyeing that objective, looking to kind of create an inkling of an idea, stalling all these players towards the middle of the map while you see the frags going off towards the outer ends.
Yeah, once again, beautiful execution out of the side of Akron. They're patient, they wait their time, and they execute when they need to. Unfortunately, though, for Akron, Shenandoah, they finally took a deep breath and composed themselves. And instead of letting it get out of hand and letting them get a good team wipe in, Shenandoah was able to stop the storm a little bit, which is very good on the side of Shenandoah.
It's the occasion where it may have taken too much time, quite frankly, with only 1.7 seconds on the clock. Unless you find that perfect kind of rebound to the back and forth and that flow of the game, you're going to be in a bad scenario, because you can already see, I mean, these guys are going ahead and kind of capitalizing off each other, going ahead, flip-flopping everywhere, and just going where they need to be. But even then, you got to make sure to find and actually follow up on something, because just to get this done, you were losing so many lives. You're just kind of getting completely sporadic, and you're going to play a near perfect game after this point. And quite frankly, with 3 players on site, you may do exactly that just to bide yourself some more time. It comes purely down to the objective and how you can really survive, not really how you can frag at this point.
Yeah, just like that. Again, the execution out of Akron is something that I'm just absolutely loving this game. No matter what time is left, no matter the lives they have, the composure out of the side of the Akron guys is commendable, honestly.
They know what they're doing. I mean, they've been here probably what feels like 100 times at this point, whether it be scrims, whether it be games, and now we're in playoffs, and those stakes are actually prevalent here, and they're going to make a massive impact. Speaking of impact, you don't really have all the lives to do that. You got 3 remaining, so every single point past this time, you have no respawns. You're already down 1, and it is you against the world with 25 seconds remaining to even get a shut off. But looking at Shenandoah and how they started this round, it seems like they're going to end it in the same exact manner, just wiping through all these guys.
Yeah. Great round out of Shenandoah. Unfortunately, though, it's a kind of a survival round, so to speak. I mean, good round out of Shenandoah. They needed that round, but almost a better round out of Akron, going from 0.6 seconds left, being able to get those 3 ticks on the A side and a tick on B side. It's very, very in their favor. If this map goes to that overtime, they're going to have that defense. And we've already seen what Akron can do on defense. They're going to try to close it out here. We'll see what happens.
Well, comes down to the start once more. Does Shenandoah go on a 10-round kill spree and just shut everybody down? Or whether does it seem like Akron had the chance for it at the get-go? And that's the biggest question we have to ask ourselves, because Akron could have gotten something there. It just came down to them literally having nothing left for the lives to really get it done. And quite frankly, it seems like they're the ones going ahead and starting on the hot foot, knowing they already found themselves 3 in exchange for just the 1 on their own right. You see that, well, they have a pretty good stance, and better yet, a lot of good pressure towards that A side of the map, where we see a lot of teams go ahead and kind of create that initial break. They love to go for those A sides. They're just a little bit more close quarters. You can find your SMGs to find a little bit of relevancy, but quite frankly, so far, they're not finding much of anything at all, with Akron still looking for a little bit of an exchange and 2 lives in the meantime. But knowing this is kind of a 1-for-4 situation, I think, quite frankly, it's going to be good ratios for them until we really see Shenandoah get a group of things.
Yeah, and again, beautiful defense out of the side of Akron. They're looking to close it out. They said, no more of this. We can slay too. Slowing down the slaying power of Shenandoah. Shenandoah's, you know, they're still getting that slaying power. They have been frying. Biohazard, 1 kill off of a kill streak. And if he gets that kill streak, it's not going to be good for the side of Shenandoah. It's just, those cruise missiles are very, very crucial. And a whole barrage of nades can instantly take out all those trophy systems and put Shenandoah in quite a bad spot.
Well, with Nell streaks going away, Akron able to go ahead and finally get one of those on the board. It just comes down to delaying these guys, looking for the shutdown towards that B site, and just looking to get these players completely off topic. Knowing that you already had that 1 tick underway, you're waiting for the Akron players to make that break, just kind of get that shutdown, and with a 3K already to go ahead and diminish all efforts here for Shenandoah. Unless you see Steve-O make the clutch of a lifetime and just stall this thing out, I think it's going to be as good as done. Already 1, 2, 3, you're counting up. You're sitting at 0, and you're sitting yourself home, better yet. Another round 1, another game closed out. Akron, they show what they're made of. We expected a little bit. We gave the benefit of the doubt to Shenandoah. While they didn't find themselves a map, every single one of these was an extremely valiant effort by them.
Absolutely. I absolutely loved the effort out of Shenandoah. Akron played a beautiful series. But on the same side, you know, Shenandoah, they were there in every single map, slaying wise, and it was a close maps, every single map. It just, like I said before, it came down to the tiniest bit of execution on the side of Shenandoah. I feel like there's too many times they got a little bit frantic rather than, you know, a few times they need to just, someone needs to be in those comms and be like, hey guys, we got this. Take a deep breath, lock in. But you know, they probably do have that person in the comms, but it unfortunately just got a little too frantic for the side of Shenandoah.
Yeah, and that's the thing that just really kind of disappoints me. I would have liked to see more maps. I would have liked to see a map 5 just out of this series specifically, because, I mean, looking at Shenandoah and their attempts, and every single time, they were really putting Akron on their toes. I mean, it's impressive to see, considering the kind of differentiation of the seedings between these two teams, knowing that even then, that last series was a little bit closer, keep in mind, but that was just kind of a testament to the actual map count. This game just felt like it could have been a map 5. Every single one felt like it was a map 5 to a relative degree, just because of the kind of stakes that were on the line, the adjustments that were being made just on the fly. It felt like even then, better yet, just seeing what Shenandoah has done over the past year, I'm really impressed by this team, quite frankly, and what they've accomplished. Akron, though, they're just going to do what they're going to do. They're one of those teams that you just really have to clock in and show up, because these guys don't really see it as a game anymore. And that's what teams, championship level teams, do. They show up, they clock in, they do what they're supposed to do, and then they go home at the end of the day and they put a smile on their face. They don't go out to drinks and dinner afterwards celebrating every single win. They just know it's what we're supposed to do. And they're like a well-oiled machine in that regard, and they've shown what they can accomplish with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, wonderful games out of Akron doing their thing, doing their job, getting it done. And great effort out of Shenandoah. And like you said, Shenandoah has had beautiful effort over this past semester. I mean, from playing them in the spring and watching this match here, they're definitely, they're getting there. They're getting there. And it's really good to see Steve-O and Toxic and those returning players help those new guys, get into their system, fit into their system, and do what they do. And Akron, like you said, they've been here. They know what they're doing. They've got a system. Everybody plugs into that system every single semester. It was a great effort out of Shenandoah.
Yeah, well, speaking of all the guns being out and all the games being over, let's go ahead and talk about where you can head out, which is going to be LA Comic-Con coming up here really soon. Obviously, LA Comic-Con, they're producing an expansive and exciting gaming, esports, and anime experience in the West Hall of Los Angeles Convention Center on December 1st through 3rd. So it's coming up here soon. Keep that in mind. Mark it on your calendars, because your pass gets you access to gaming stage tournaments, Steam Studio, and your favorite streamers, the free play zone with the hottest PC and console games, and the Mix, which has over 10 indie games with devs on site. If you want to go ahead and experience what's going to be coming up next in the gaming industry, because we know what's going to be coming on the market, because there's always new things on the horizon. And so go ahead and click the banner below. Use the promo code LEVELUP for $5 off your gaming pass if you're going to be heading out there as well. So, obviously, speaking of heading out, that's going to be us as well here for the night. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching these two matches. I really enjoyed my time once again coming back to the Khaz scene and casting this thing out. And we'll hope to see y'all next week. Maybe not us two, but somebody with week 2 of playoffs. We'll catch you then.
Los Angeles Comic-Con is back at the LA Convention Center December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Meet stars from hit movies and TV series like Matt Smith, Jamie Campbell-Bower, Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, Rainn Wilson, and so much more. Shop over 800 exhibitors and artists. Experience the vibrant cosplay community and immerse yourself in the gaming and anime hall with tournaments for Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter all weekend long. Get your tickets for LA's favorite comic, gaming, anime, and pop culture convention at ComicConLA.com.